a lot to do with relationships.
Yeah.
A lot of parents do not want to talk about their kids engaging in dating or
Yeah.
even just their current relationships that they have at young ages. It's such an uncomfortable topic for Polynesian parents,
Yeah.
especially for girls, especially
Yeah.
for Polynesian girls. They can't openly go to their dad or mom and say, oh, what's some dating advice for this situation? Or how
Yeah.
do you think I should tackle this? And that's
Yeah.
why I feel like a lot of Polynesian girls fall into different situations that they might not necessarily have pictured themselves being in, getting
Yeah.
pregnant young or being in abusive relationships. They can't
Yeah.
identify those triggers or those red flags. And
Yeah.
that's one of the main things I get concerned about is they don't have those life building tools from their parents to teach them
Yeah.
this is something you shouldn't go through. This is something
Yeah.
that's not acceptable. These are things that you don't accept from males. And vice versa for males.
Yeah.
They don't have those conversations with their dad where they're like, how should I necessarily treat a girl? They base how you should treat a woman off what they see.
Mainstream
And so
media.
and mainstream media, but also maybe how their parents
Yeah.
treat each other.
Yeah.
So if they're not I was fortunate to have parents that stayed together. I know a lot of Polynesian kids that are from broken families that have parents that weren't together, that weren't even married. And I think that's why it's a place where they're able to come to for my parents. Because like I said, a lot of my friends have grown up in different circumstances. Some of them didn't have dads growing up. Some of them didn't have moms. And so, to have that united front to comfort them was a easier thing for my friends. They had a mom and a dad that were able to be there for them and support them if they didn't have that growing up. So dating is one of the things that they definitely came to. Also failure topics. If they weren't doing so well in something, they were able to open up to my parents about that, because like I said, that's such a hard topic for Polynesians to talk about.
Yeah.
Failure in life and being able to use failure as a way for you to build success, because they look at failure as, I'm not doing good at something, so I'm not going to be able to achieve it, rather than
Yeah.
being resilient and saying, oh, I'm going to be able to use that as a stepping tool towards getting better and being able to work harder. Because a lot of Polynesian parents don't find positive encouragement as a way for them to keep moving harder. They a lot of that is, you're not doing enough of this, you're not focusing on this, and it kind of builds like a shelter around that child. They talk less and less. They don't want to be able to express themselves at all, which I also think ties into a lot of Polynesian men now being struggling with communication, emotionally unavailable. I find those are the two things that I struggle with Polynesian men. They struggle so much to have honest conversations, open conversations, and also just like, being able to accept the emotions that they have and express that to their partner. So yeah, they're all intertwined and stuff like that. So
how was it for you when you told your dad about your first relationship? How was that? We are live. What's up, everybody? What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Kava Club Podcast, where we share healthy conversations, experiences, apply knowledge, and stories to promote happiness, love, success, and improve your quality of life. You guys already know my name. My name is Will. I'm the host of this show. If you guys are watching this for the first time, you guys are tuning in from different parts of the world, please show some love. Please like and subscribe to my channel. And everybody out there around the world has been showing me so much love, so much support, being subscribed to my channel, and sending me so much positive feedback. Thank you so much, all for out there. I really appreciate it. Keeps the fire burning, keeps the inspiration flowing for me. But I'm excited today, y'all. We have a very special guest. We have a very special guest today. I'm very excited. I saw her on IG and I saw the vibe. She had a lot of positive vibes, a lot of things she was doing. And I reached out to her. So I was so excited for her to be here today. It's one of our Polynesian sisters, all the way from Sydney. And I just want to tell her directly, thank you so much. Very grateful for her to be here today. And I know it's kind of early in the morning. Thank you so much for getting up early in the morning to be on this show. I'm very excited. So thank you so much. But I'll allow her to introduce herself real quick. So it's all you.
Hey guys, I just want to thank you so much, Will, for reaching out and giving me the opportunity to be on your podcast. I think it's great what you're trying to do and create for our Polynesian community worldwide. So my name's Tina Sio. I am 25. I'm from Sydney, Australia. I am Samoan and Niuean for my heritage. I am Australian born, and Yeah, that's just a little bit about me and who I am. Heavily involved on Instagram and just love to post and talk about the Polynesian community in general. So thank you for having me.
No
Yeah.
problem. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, I know there's a lot
No
of people
worries.
watching. Everybody got excited to watch this podcast. So yeah, we'll get started.
Awesome.
Yeah, so started off, can you, a lot of people watching this, they don't know who you are. So can you give a quick synopsis of your life story, your background, and how'd you grow up?
Awesome. So yeah, like I said, I am 25 at the moment. I was born in Australia. So I have 4 siblings. I have 2 older brothers as well as a twin sister. So that is such an interesting fact for a lot of people that I am a twin. And both my parents were born in Samoa. So, had big families, grew up with a lot of brothers and sisters and, had a great childhood there. And luckily for, myself and my siblings, my parents had the opportunity to move to New Zealand and do their high schooling there and studied for a while. And that's where my parents met. And, they decided to make the move to Australia in the 80s, which is why we are so thankful to have the childhood we have, growing up in a land of opportunity and the opportunities we've had growing up. So basically they got married here in Australia in Burwood, and they had my eldest brother, as well as, Patrick followed after that, and then myself and Anna. And I'm super grateful for my childhood. Like growing up, we've always been a tight-knit family. My parents have always kind of been in between the Samoa, as well as kind of being progressive and knowing that we're growing up in a westernized country. So just adapting to the lifestyle of Australia, but also making sure that we still hold our customs and traditions as kids. So in primary school, it was a good lifestyle. It was great to have growing up in Australia. And I think a lot of the challenges I faced, mainly with identity and being Samoan, was when I went to high school. I did find that it was kind of a struggle for me. I went to a predominantly European school, and I think the focal point for my dad at that point was to be in an environment where I wasn't per se distracted with sometimes being around your own community. He felt that maybe it would distract me in my studies. So although it was great to be in an environment where I could focus a lot, I did find that I struggled a lot with my Samoan culture and being able to express that in my adolescent years. I also wasn't in a sporting team because I played basketball at the time with my sister, where there was a lot of Islanders as well. So a lot of the time that I was growing up in my adolescent years, I had a lot of people tell me that I speak white, I act white. And that was hard for me. I think at the time I took it as a compliment because I thought, it must mean I'm educated. But then I also found that it was because I was so disconnected at the time with who I was, and maybe celebrating my Samoan culture a lot more and not being ashamed of that.
You get that a lot?
Kind of, I wouldn't say
like do you see that a lot when people meet you, and they feel like that you talk, you're too articulate. You're too articulate for them.
Yeah, I think growing up in a Polynesian community, sometimes there's a vast difference between sounding Palangi or sounding educated, and I think the easiest way for them to identify with someone sounding a particular way is that you're Fia Palangi, and for me it was never the case. I think it's just I was very fortunate to have parents that wanted to send me to a school where I could have a lot of opportunities or resources, and I think that was one of the things I took harshly when I was in my adolescent years that I tried to deal with when I was in my younger 20s is being able to deal with some of the comments that I received at a younger age, and then moving out of school. And I joined a lot more groups, and I think my rugby team was predominantly Islander. And then at uni, I joined a group called PATH, and it was Pacifica Achievement to Higher Education. And that was a group to help just, Pacific Islander students in uni grow together and help each other get through our course. So when I joined that group in my rugby team, I felt like it was a lot better.
Okay. So, so you're growing up as adolescents and then became a teenager. That's what you were facing. So what happened next?
So yeah, I graduated school, it was great. And then I moved on to study. I did
Yeah.
a Bachelor of Business, majoring in marketing, and I was so thankful to have a dad that kind of helped me through tertiary education because I wasn't sure what I wanted to do after school. I kind
Mm-hmm.
of was looking at different courses, and I felt like it was such a privilege to go to university because I know a lot of Polynesians don't get that opportunity to have like a free education and pay it off later. So even though I was unsure, I kind of said to my dad, like, what do you think would be great for me to do? And I think he did business, so he kind of encouraged me to do business. And um, when I was at university, I think it was great. The social aspect was amazing. I started to make a lot more Islander friends, and I was able to celebrate myself more as a Pacifica woman. But I think one of the topics that a lot of Islanders don't want to talk about is the setbacks you face in uni. You know, you don't want to talk about the fact that you might want to defer or you fail certain units, and that was one of the things I did struggle with in university. I didn't graduate at the time that everyone wants to. It's a 3-year
Yeah.
course, but I took an extra year. I think I had a relationship at the time.
Mm-hmm.
I started dating someone in my last year of school, and
Mm-hmm.
I did feel like it vastly affected me in my education and
Yeah.
who I was as a woman. I struggled a lot. It was like my high school sweetheart at the time, and I prioritized my relationship over myself and my goals, and it ended up, obviously setting me back a whole year,
Mm-hmm.
which I take accountability for as well. It was not just him, but me, and
Mm-hmm.
what I felt was important at the time. So it's one of the things. Even though you feel like you have a lot of support around you,
Mm-hmm.
it really does come down to you as an individual and how much you value yourself and where you want to go in life. So university was good. Although I did take an extra year, I was happy that I got over the line and I was able to graduate. And I think I had a lot of problems with my parents as well.
Mm-hmm.
They kind of realized that I wasn't staying on path with my course, and my dad was very upset at the time because he just said, like, I can see you slipping through the cracks and you're not taking care of like what you need to do as a person. So if we're
Mm-hmm.
going to support you and you're going to do uni, I want you to make sure that that's what you're focusing on, and that's your main priority. Because growing up, my dad's always felt that although we are great athletes, like my older brother plays professional rugby, my other
Okay.
brother also played professional rugby. But that's not that's not a great opportunity for a lot of women to make
Yeah.
that a career for yourself.
Yeah.
But he's always believed like you're a student first and you're an athlete second, and you always need to have a plan B. Although sport, you could be great at it, it could leave you at any time, so you've always got to have a backup plan. Um, and university was all I had at that time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I couldn't fall back on anything else. Although I was working for our family business and it was great, that was the pinnacle point of what I needed to achieve in my younger 20s, and not reaching it at the time that I needed to affected me a lot in my self-esteem because my sister graduated on time, my brothers were doing so well. And then, I felt like it was a failure for me that I wasn't achieving what I needed to in a time frame. And I slowly learned that growing up, nothing has a timeline. When
Yeah.
you finish education is when you finish education. When you finish school is when you finish school. And I was very tough on myself at the time. So, yeah, I graduated school and I'm doing a postgrad at the moment in counseling. I chose
Yeah.
that particularly because I'm majoring now in abuse and child development, and I want to be able to utilize my postgrad course to help the Pacifica community and Polynesian kids,
Yeah.
especially with generational trauma,
Yeah.
abuse, anything that has happened with them at a younger age, to help them succeed later on in life and what they want to do. So that's just where I'm at currently. I am working full time for our family business. We send money to Samoa, which is great.
Mm-hmm.
We've always been around helping our own and being able to, provide services where we can be around our people. And we also sell Samoan clothing, accessories, and handicrafts. So yeah, that's just what I'm doing work wise and study wise. And, I love anywhere I can help like our people. I would, that's where I said to myself around it. And that's how I keep myself grounded. But that's just a little about how I've grown up and, some of the things I've gone through. And yeah, kind of like the things that I'm currently working through in order to,
Yeah.
get where I'm at and the goals that I've set for myself.
Yo.
I think is good. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I love what you said. There's no timeline when it comes to life. I know from not only Polynesians in general, but just all people. I do realize, especially today's age of social media, where everybody's just watching other people's lives. So people always try to compare their own life with other people. So, when we see everybody getting married, and like you feel like, oh, I think I need to get married. You see everybody
I need to get married,
getting their dream job, and you feel like, oh wow, I need to be where I need to get my dream job right now. So that's something I always want to tell my audience, to everybody out there, that when it comes to our individual paths in life, it's your own life. We're all gonna go to our own different paths.
Exactly.
And there's no timeline. There's no timeline, right?
No timeline to success at all.
Yeah. And one of the things I always have to tell people all the time is like, just because somebody's doing something earlier than you does not necessarily mean it's gonna be sustainable or it's gonna work out.
Exactly.
Sometimes I see people. One of the biggest things I see, especially with our generation, especially when people get married, they're like, yeah, just because somebody gets married now doesn't mean the relationship is gonna be great. I see people get married all the time, and then like 2 years later, 5 years later, they get divorced.
They're not together. Exactly.
Yeah. So there's always a side of the story you don't see.
Yes.
So sometimes you see people, especially on social media. Yeah, social media is not the real life. It's not the real reality of what's really happening in that relationship, in that job. So I guess my favorite quote is like, you're never too behind. You're never too ahead. You're never too behind. You're exactly where you need to be.
100%, and I agree with that.
Yeah.
I mean, I wasn't always like that before. I've always grown up to think that there is a timeline to everything. You need to finish things on time, and that's just because of like the high standards that I look at my parents and their success and what they've done. I was fortunate to have a dad that did tertiary education, and with my friends and my family, because we all come from different backgrounds and different circumstances, I 100% always bring my friends around to share my dad and kind of, I always think that my parents are a lot of like their second parents to a lot of my friends, and they enjoy the conversations we have. I think that the thing I'm so grateful for growing up is in the Fa Samoa, even in any Polynesian culture, like it wasn't a thing to sit down at the dinner table and have long conversations with your parents. A lot of the conversations you have growing up is like, how was school? What are you doing? What are you working towards? Did you finish this? Did you finish that? And the open conversations my dad would have with not only myself, but my siblings was such a blessing. I think like him just asking us about religion or different topics and just being able to express ourselves was something that helped us with our social skills and being able to talk openly with people, which is one of the things I think built, a foundation tool for our siblings to be able to talk so openly and honest with people and not shy away from opportunities or anything like that. I think my dad and my mum did a great job at that. So it was good to kind of have that environment. And I think mainly growing up, the thing I did was I had self-inflicted problems. Like I would put myself in situations that would set me back, and things that this generation praises like self-love and self-care. We didn't grow up with that. I didn't grow up like having people tell me all the time, you should love yourself so much. And you didn't have, I mean, when I was growing up as a teenager, we only just progressively started getting social media. So, where it is now versus where I was before, you didn't have lots of podcasts or videos or a lot of people like openly telling you, like self-love, self-care, self-worth, I mean, I think I only really started doing that a few years ago.
Did you struggle with self-love early in your
myself out of house? Sorry.
It's fine.
Sorry so much. Yeah.
You're good. You froze. You froze a little bit. Hello.
And now? Sorry. Oh, okay.
There
Sorry,
we go.
we're back.
There we go. We're back. We are good.
Apologies.
Yeah. So I want to ask you, that's kind of cool. That's kind of amazing that you have a very open relationship with your dad, with your parents. Based on the conversations I have, for the most part, the majority of families I know don't have an open communication. Of kids I know, Polynesian kids, they don't have that open communication with their parents. All right, so
Sorry.
it's
So
fine.
sorry.
It's fine.
Yeah.
It's fine. So I feel like that's one of the things that's really, really important to talk about. And also the things that can help kids grow is allowing them to speak, allow them to express how they feel, and of course, we have to do it in a respectful way towards our parents.
Yes, that's it.
Right. But I do believe it's very necessary for us to ask questions, ask questions, to express, because later on in life when we become adults, in order to achieve the things we want out of life, we have to ask, and we have to express our ideas. And especially when you go into career, relationships, communication is a very key element to all things that we're going to do in our life.
That's it.
Right.
That's it.
So
it's based on communication. So
whether it's relationships, whether it's a career, whether it's networking, marketing, like it's learning how to communicate with other people. But I want to ask you, so I know you say you had open communication with your parents, and you guys talk about things. What are the topics that you often see within that people are afraid to talk about within the Samoa community?
I think, with their parents or just in general?
Just in general, like, I want to ask you, did you can you say your friends sometimes come to your parents and talk to them and confide in them? Did they confide in them because they were more comfortable talking about certain things to them compared to, and what were those topics that they were more comfortable talking to them?
I think it was a lot to do with relationships.
Yeah.
A lot of parents do not want to talk about their kids engaging in dating or even just their current relationships that they have at young ages. It's such an uncomfortable topic for Polynesian parents, especially for girls. Especially for Polynesian girls. They can't openly go to their dad or mom and say, oh, what's some dating advice for this situation? Or how do you think I should tackle this? And that's why I feel like a lot of Polynesian girls fall into different situations that they might not necessarily have pictured themselves being in, getting pregnant young or being in abusive relationships. They can't identify those triggers or those red flags. And that's one of the main things I get concerned about is they don't have those life building tools from their parents to teach them this is something you shouldn't go through, this is something that's not acceptable, these are things that you don't accept from males, and vice versa for males. They don't have those conversations with their dad where they're like, how should I necessarily treat a girl? They base how you should treat a woman off what they see
mainstream media.
And mainstream media, but also maybe how their parents treat each other. So if they're not I was fortunate to have parents that stayed together. I know a lot of Polynesian kids that are from broken families that have parents that weren't together, that weren't even married. And I think that's why it's a place where they're able to come to for my parents. Because like I said, a lot of my friends have grown up in different circumstances. Some of them didn't have dads growing up. Some of them didn't have moms. And so, to have that united front to comfort them was an easier thing for my friends. They had a mom and a dad that were able to be there for them and support them if they didn't have that growing up. So dating is one of the things that they definitely came to. Also failure topics. If they weren't doing so well in something, they were able to open up to my parents about that, because like I said, that's such a hard topic for Polynesians to talk about. Failure in life and being able to use failure as a way for you to build success, because they look at failure as, I'm not doing good at something, so I'm not going to be able to achieve it, rather than being resilient and saying, oh, I'm going to be able to use that as a stepping tool towards getting better and being able to work harder. Because a lot of Polynesian parents don't find positive encouragement as a way for them to keep moving harder. They a lot of that is, you're not doing enough of this, you're not focusing on this, and it kind of builds like a shelter around that child. They talk less and less. They don't want to be able to express themselves at all, which I also think ties into a lot of Polynesian men now being struggling with communication, emotionally unavailable. I find those are the two things that I struggle with Polynesian men. They don't they struggle so much to have honest conversations, open conversations, and also just like, you know, being able to accept the emotions that they have and express that to their partner. So yeah, they're all intertwined and stuff like that. So
how was it for you when you told your dad about your first relationship? How was that?
Surprisingly, he wasn't as tough on the idea. I find like a lot of people think, oh, the Polynesian dad's going to be so much worse than the mom. But my mom was.
Did you tell me in the beginning? Did you tell me in the beginning, or like later, you already in this relationship, and then you kind of eased your way in?
So look, I was lucky with my first relationship. My parents actually knew his parents, but also I took him to my school formal. So after, and I had to kind of introduce him that way as my friend, but they kind of knew I wanted to eventually date him. So I got lucky in that sense that I wanted to invite a boy to my formal, and then I kind of said to them, I really like him and I want to date him. But I know that's not the case for a lot of girls. Like a lot of women now that are like 30 still have to lie to their parents about dating because they're so worried about what their parents are going to think of them. And they're not able to like date at an age where, you know, they're 21, 22 at the ages you want to date because, you know, they can't be open with their parents.
Yeah. I think it's very important for anybody that's listening right now. I think it's very important to put in context because I do understand that many of the things that we experience now as a modern generation, and then of course, and one of the biggest things I always hear, of course, like, you know, our parents don't understand the lack of communication from our parents, and I just want to put in context to understand that everybody out there that, you know, our parents grew up in a different time. And the reason why they don't communicate with us, and the reason why they don't have this conversation with us, the reason why they don't understand, you know, the way we live and the culture that we live in today, because they grew up in a different time. So I always have to explain that, especially to my younger siblings, to my younger cousins, or my younger friends.
Yes.
And tell them, like, you know, our parents, you know, our parents can't give you what you want if they don't know if they don't know how to give it to you. You know, so if your parents, if your parents grew up with their when they grew up with their parents, they had a lack of open communication with their parents. That's the exact same way they're gonna treat you. So that's something that, you know, for me, I had my own issues and with my own parents and my grandma, because I was raised by my grandma. But then later on in life, I realized, oh wow, it wasn't her fault. It's because she grew up in a different time and she can't give me something that she doesn't know how to give. You know, so you know, when we have kids one day, we'll be able to communicate with them because we learned that skill. You know, our parents did not learn that skill. So majority of Polynesian parents grew up in a very conservative, tough household, tough love. So I just wanted to put that out there. So because I do hear that a lot from a lot of people, and sometimes I see that can cause conflicts between their relationship with their parents to drive them apart. And I think you said it best. Like, you know, they allowed the kids to start talking to their parents less and less and less. And I feel like it's really important to have that relationship with your parents because they have a lot of knowledge about life. And he talked about Polynesians going to teen pregnancy and all these things. Yeah, if we able to go to our parents and get that information from them to learn, then we can avoid a lot of the things that we go through in life. But if your parents don't communicate with you, just understand. I think it's really important. You have to build that relationship with them.
Yeah, you have to understand the context beforehand in order to like build where you are now.
Yeah, like you have to teach them. Like, you know, it's like anything in life. Like if they don't know something, like when somebody doesn't know something, the best thing you do to love that person is teach them. You know,
exactly.
So if your parents doesn't know how to communicate with you, understand that they weren't taught that skill. And
so you have to be the person that's able to build that type of relationship.
But I also understand it. I also understand for a lot of the younger kids, they're not mature enough to understand that. So I think it's really great to talk about these things like on this podcast. So because when I was young, like I just thought I was a rebel. I'm just like, I'm just, you know, my parents don't understand me. So they don't like me. They don't appreciate me. You know, I'm going to do me. They don't, you know, and that was my mentality. But then I grew up, no, like there was no conflict between me and them. It's just my parents couldn't give me something that they didn't know. They didn't have the skills of understanding, of communicating, you know, mental health, the things that we go to with mental health and all these things that we go through now as in today's era and age. So, I just wanted to put that out there. So I know you mentioned.
No, that's good.
So when you talk to your dad about dating and told him, hey, you know what, I want to date this guy. I really like him. What was the first things that he said to you?
Look, my dad's first priority and his best interest at heart is always going to be for me. But my dad's very he's very much an open book too. He will tell, and I always want a male perspective, because although I asked my mom, like hearing it from a man yourself, it becomes a lot more clear in your head. You get a lot more clarity as to what maybe the male perspective is of you as a person, or how they're going to view women. So he always is kind of just like, when I date a guy, or if I'm interested in someone, he'll just be like, oh, what are some of his hobbies? What does he like to do? Like, is he a family man? Does he, is he close with his family? What was it like growing up for him? Kind of questions like that. Or, what are his intentions with you? Do you feel like maybe it's just a casual thing, or do you think it's a long-term thing? Just going off the topic that you were talking about before, and growing up, because I had two different perspectives. My mom was a 5 feet Irish daughter. So she was very much conservative.
Okay, got you.
She didn't believe in dating at a young age. She thought you had to wear makeup or dress a certain way at a certain time. And I wholeheartedly agree with you in the fact that, like, you can't, if she's grown up this way for 50 odd years, you can't then just think that in a year she's going to change how she's thought, and her thought process for years and years. So, with my dad, I guess it was a little bit different. Although he had experienced those things in the Samoan where you weren't able to talk to your parents and stuff like that, maybe he kind of just self-reflected and he said to himself, I didn't get these things when I grew up, so maybe I want to do things differently with my kids. But at the same time, like I said, keeping towards traditions and customs. But I was able to have a parent that wanted to start that conversation. Like you said, if you don't have parents like that, you eventually try and work your way into talking to your parents.
Teach them how to do it.
And that's what we had to do with my mom. I had to be patient and say, like, she's not going to be the mom where I'm like, oh yeah, mom, I do this and that, and everything's going to be open, okay. It's a respect thing, she is your mom, so if she doesn't feel comfortable talking about something, give her time, and eventually maybe she does want to talk to you about it. So that's why I got a lot of dating advice from my dad, because my mom, she struggled with that thought. She didn't really like the fact I had a boyfriend at 17, 18, which I kind of wish I listened to my mom, because I didn't pick the right type of guy to date at that time. Like I said, in my uni years, it didn't help me grow in any way. I feel like, I feel like when it comes to life, that doesn't matter what happened to you. I feel like it's a learning experience. So, you always get experience from
because this is what I always hear from. I'm glad we're having this conversation. This is one of the things I always often hear from a lot of younger. I hear from a lot of women, but usually the younger women, especially girls that have never had any dating experience, and then I hear them say things like, "I'm waiting for the right guy," right? So the thing is, this is what I always tell people: the thing is, the only way you can know it's a right guy if you date the wrong guy.
Yes.
I'm sure there's a lot of lucky people out there that the first person they meet and they date becomes their soulmate.
The last person.
And becomes the person they marry forever. If that was your relationship, God bless you.
Of course, you're very lucky.
But for majority of people, most of us, we're gonna run into some wrong relationships. So, and I always tell people, it's like there's no such thing as the right person. You have to figure. Like if you never, like, just like the right job, you don't know the right job until you go into the job and work on it and experience it, right?
That's it.
And then you realize, okay, this is something that may work out for me. If it does, great, keep that path. If not, then you leave, right? So and so the same thing with a lot of these young women. Like, I'm waiting for the right guy, and the reason why I want to say this, because if you have that mentality, I'm looking for the right guy, then you're very easy to manipulate. By the wrong
100% agree. 100% agree with you. Guy. And I've seen that. I mean, it happened to me. So,
exactly.
You set these unrealistic standards for yourself because you lack in dating experience so badly.
Exactly.
That you're not able to identify red flags. You don't know what you don't want. you don't know what you don't want. So how are you supposed to know what you exactly want in a person? Because you're basing it off unrealistic standards. You don't necessarily know that it's going to work out that way.
Yeah, and in the first relationship, you're so emotionally involved that the logical red flags that you see, you kind of put your blinders off because you're so emotionally, because you've been looking for this right guy mentality. Oh, I found this right guy. I found him. He's the right guy. This is the right guy for me. And you totally ignore all the red flags because you've told you in your mind, I'm looking for the right guy. And it just happened to be the first guy you met. So you have to,
guys, if you're feeling personally attacked by Will, if you feel like you're feeling how he,
I am talking to you right now. I'm glad you feel that way. So what I believe is, when you go into a relationship, just go into it without no expectations.
Exactly.
Right. Of course, make sure you do your
have some standards for yourself.
Have some standards, but there should be. But you shouldn't go into this relationship have the expectation of this person has to be the person I have to marry, or this person has to be the person I'm going to be with forever. And
exactly.
So if you I just see personally that when I see a lot of people, I'm looking for the right guy, both men and women. Then both men and women, I'm looking for this right guy, right person. Now, dating is just like anything else; it's trial and error. You just date somebody, and then
if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out.
We move on. But then every bad relationship or failed relationship, take that away. Every learning relationship. I don't like these
learning. I like that. Yeah, I think positive affirmations. Of words. It's great.
Every learning experience, you learn what you don't like and what you don't, and what you do like. So. Yeah, so sometimes you will never know what kind of guy or girl you will like until you date those type of people. So when you went through your first relationship, now you learn, okay, I don't like guys that act this way, that do these things, right? So now you have perspective to what you look for, because I feel like when you're younger, all you're looking for is a relationship. You don't look for certain things,
no.
which is it's
hard to shape that. And obviously, well, look, I'm single now because I was in 2 back-to-back long-term relationships. So I went from dating.
How long was each?
2.5 years. Yeah, 2.5 years.
Oh, that's a long time. That's a long time. Yeah.
So I had been taken from when I was 17 till 23. I always had a partner. And that's why I struggled so much with independency. And I think it's not even just Polynesian girls in general, but women find it hard because I feel like we're just so codependent all the time on our partner. I do find that some men are like that, but I didn't know what I was as a person without him. So when I went into my second relationship, and surprisingly, you'd think that you take a lot of learning aspects from your first one, and yet I had found myself in a worse relationship than I was before. And I went from someone that was my own age to someone older. So in my head, as a younger girl, and I had just turned 20, I thought, dating an older guy, I wouldn't have to deal with all of the immaturity of relationships, talking to other girls, social media, he's a lot older. Maybe he wants different things. So I'm going to experience less error. But then I realized maturity sometimes doesn't always come with age. Sometimes you'll meet older men and some of them haven't grown up, or even women themselves. And so, I think a lot of women go through it, but, I experienced a lot of abuse in that relationship. And it wasn't the best time for me. I think I honestly had to reach rock bottom in order to be where I am now at 25. And I built that over the stem of 2 years, from the age of 23 to 25. I literally used both years to rebuild myself from when I was from that past relationship. So, yeah.
Yeah, I wanna ask you, because I often hear, I've talked to a lot of women that have been in abusive relationships. So, and I'm sure a lot of people watching this probably either you went through a similar experience. I do want to ask you, why do women stay in abusive relationships? I'm just very interested to hear your perspective, because I do see that a lot. That people say
it's a cycle. It's a cycle.
So I want to ask you, why did you stay, even though you weren't happy, or you saw things that wasn't working out, or it was abusive? What was the reason why you stayed in that relationship?
It comes back to identifying problems. I was so naive at that time. Although I had dated someone for 2.5 years, the things I had experienced with this partner was totally different to puppy love or high school love. And why women stay? It's so hard when you date a narcissist. A lot of manipulation, That is the core thing that why a lot of women stay, because you're emotionally, spiritually, physically manipulated into the relationship and you feel like there's no other option. And when you date a person that's an abuser, they will lower your self-esteem so much that you don't feel like you could possibly put yourself out there again or start again. So it's so easy to look at someone from the outside and say, oh, you're getting physically abused or you're mentally abused, and you know, you're just so pathetic. Why would you not leave? Why do you allow yourself to be treated that way? But it is such a mental and psychological aspect towards it. You cannot fight yourself to get out of that mentality. That's what you've learned. That's what he's built you into over time. So to break down those walls, it would literally either be you find a support system that will drag you out of that. You don't leave that relationship and you end up in an abusive relationship for the rest of your life. You lose your life over it, or he doesn't want you anymore, and then you have to build yourself back up, which ended up happening to me. He just left me completely and I had to deal with that, and it was so hard. For the first year, I didn't know who I was. I had to reshape everything, myself as a person. I found myself in other situations that I didn't think was me. You go through phases. You end up not being able to have close relationships with people. You have to rebuild friendships. You have to rebuild trust with your family. I had to do all of that because of this one particular relationship. And then to also be in a relationship where they have no remorse. They don't feel like they owe you an apology or what they've done to you, can ruin you as a person, male or female. So that's why a lot of females don't leave, and that's why I empathize with a lot of them. I don't attack them as women because, look, some people choose it. There are girls where I know that they know they can leave, they have the strength to leave, and they compromise. Versus there's other women that literally feel they can't leave at all.
That's always the case when I do have conversations with people that are in abusive relationships. You know, there's so many things. You know, one of them, like you said, that's what they're used to. So like I think you mentioned before about whatever the type of love your parents have, then that's gonna be the love that you're gonna expect out of people. So if you grew up in a home that was very toxic, abusive, then naturally that's what you're gonna think that's normalized from your relationship with other people. But that's one of the common things I do hear is, when you deal with people that are very toxic, they make you believe that you're not worth anything and you don't have the confidence to go out there and that you deserve better. Right. And especially in long relationships, because you've invested so much time, right? So much time into this person. You guys spend so much time together that I do realize that the longer you're with somebody, it's the harder to leave that person.
The harder it is to leave. Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Because you're conditioned to believe that that's the type of love you deserve. And it's funny you say that because there are I do feel sorry for kids that do grow up in environments where they didn't have the best parenting and the best example of love. I had a great example of love in front of me. My parents loved each other so dearly. I had supportive siblings and I still found myself in that situation. So I guess it's also a learning experience that although there are people that grow up in toxic environments, you could just equally find yourself in the same environment if you don't have a lot of dating experience or you're naive to concepts of love, and you don't fully understand what love is for you as a person, romantically. And
that's why I take it back to what we talked about before. Like, people are waiting for the right person. That's why, like, we can grow up in a home and see our parents be in love, but the thing is, we don't have practical experience. Like, we see it, but we haven't experienced it yet. So that's why you can grow up in a home with the healthy relationship with your parents, and they're in love and they've been married for their whole life, and then the first person you go to and it treats you like crap, but that's your first experience ever. So you won't, like, I always tell people, you don't know something until you try it, until you go through it. So but I do want to ask you, what were the red flags? Like, I'm sure in the beginning, like, what were the things that you saw in the beginning where, okay, the call was like giving you red flags to know, okay, this relationship is not going where it needs to be, but you still stay anyway? Because I always tell people, when people leave a relationship, the relationship already ended a long time ago.
Oh, of course.
That I always tell people, it already ended. That was just like the reality of, okay, it's over, but it was already done long before that. So when was the time when you realized how deep into the relationship you realized, okay, this is over? But I always feel, like you said, I always feel like both men and women, if you've been with somebody for a long time, even though you realize it's over, but there's always that part of you that just wants that hopefully things might work out. There's always that small part of you, but then something bad has to happen to realize, okay, now it's over. But I want to ask you, what was the red flags that you saw that you realized this was over?
Of course. Look, the red flags that I saw in the beginning that I probably looked over. I wouldn't say it necessarily. Yeah, which ended up being the red flags that made me have to leave. Lying. A lot of the lying. It was little lies at first. It was little lies. He lied about his age. He lied about his relationship with his parents. And these are little things that women overlook because they think, oh, these are just little lies. Like
how
it's not
old
a
was
big
he?
lie.
You said by the age. How old was he?
Oh, look, he lied by a year.
Okay.
But for me, it's like it just wasn't straight up honesty. So why would you have to lie about that?
Yeah.
I just found that so odd. And the second red flag I found was we had been dating for months and months and months. And I don't think it takes you about nearly a year for you to ask someone out. I don't think, sorry. Give me a sec. Sorry. Yeah. I don't think it should take you like more than 8 months to realize, oh, maybe I want to ask this girl out. And I had asked him multiple times, like, look, I know that it takes a while for you to get to know someone, but we've been dating for a long time. Like, why is it taking you so long to ask me out? And it affects your self-esteem because you think there's something wrong with you. And then also other like obvious red flags. I sometimes found he was hitting his phone, or sometimes we'd be on dates and I'd ask him about certain things and it didn't add up in my head, yet I overlooked it because I thought, oh, he's such a good looking guy and he treats me well. But then, it's obvious things that a lot of women probably see. But for me, because I was so infatuated with his physical appearance, I compensated his lies and his personality and maybe all of his bad traits that he had that I think I knew, and I was self-aware, but I didn't want to deal with because I was already too emotionally invested into the relationship. And then the red flags that made me leave was obviously like verbally abusive. A lot of it had to do with my physical appearance. I had gained a bit of weight in the relationship, and a lot of it was attacking my physical appearance. The second one was he found it very hard for me to always be around my family. He wasn't super close with his parents and they lived in a different country. So I always wanted to go back and he had lived on his own, whereas I lived with my family. And he found that hard that I was so close with my siblings and I always wanted to go back home. I feel like unknowingly he was isolating me away from my family. He didn't really let me see my friends a lot. And these all accumulated to like, obviously a moment where it then turned into physical abuse. So that was probably like the pinnacle point that I thought, no, I can't be in this relationship anymore. Like it's just, I had always promised myself that regardless of what I was going to go through, I would never go through something like that. Yet I found myself in that situation. Mm-hmm. And that was probably like the point where I said, like, I've reached my rock bottom, like this, it couldn't get any worse than this. And after that, no remorse, and we kind of parted ways. He moved to a different country, and there was no resolution to that situation. So those were kind of the red flags that I had faced before.
Yeah, I do want to ask you, because you said you had 2 relationships. Did you when you got out of your first relationship, how long was it before you started? How long was it before you dated? You went into the second relationship. What was
second relationship? I'd say about 8 months.
8 months. Did you ever go through like a healing process, or in the 8 months, or are you just getting?
I wouldn't say I went through a healing process. Although it was 8 months. I think it was just 8 months of like trying to find temporary comfort until I had found someone that portrayed love to me again. And so I didn't know what, and that's what I say again, coming back to social media. I didn't feel like I had outside tools. I mean, I had my family and I spoke to them, but it was more so like, oh, you just wasted your time, like move on, you'll be okay. I didn't really unpack a lot of the emotional kind of abuse and stuff that I'd gone through, or I was still kind of in love with my first partner. So I never really kind of got over him. And then I started dating my second partner at a young age. And I think I just felt like I was lost. I felt like I was stuck. Like, because I had been manipulated so much from my first relationship, I feel like that was just my perception of love. So when I had met my second partner, I thought, oh, he seems good, but again, I didn't learn as much as I should have from my first relationship.
Yeah, I think it's everybody that's watching. I think it's really important that people go through the healing phase right after you get out of especially a long relationship, right? I see that a lot today, where I meet a lot of people and they're just bouncing from back to relationships. You see, you ever see those people?
I have my own friends that are like that.
Yeah,
yes.
like
I have my own friends that are like that.
Every month they have a boyfriend or girlfriend post on the social media.
Yes,
hey guys,
I do, and I look, and each to their own. I honestly have learned that, like, I'm not the judge. Of all people, but
I'm not judging.
I find it extremely hard to believe that you can date someone back to back to back and genuinely think that's going to be a long-term thing for you. Yeah. And I've lost, the standard I set for myself now. I find it so hard to even see my friends be like that, because I think, like, how do you find yourself in that situation where you've been in such a long-term relationship and you're at it again, like, back to back, and you haven't done any self-worth, or you haven't done anything to heal yourself properly. And I think that's why I've stayed single for 2 years, because I don't feel like I'm at that point where I can wholeheartedly put 100% into a relationship yet. And that's the standard I set for myself. And like I said, you set standards for yourself so that you feel like you accept the love that you deserve when you find it in your own time. And like you said, some people are lucky and they find it at a young age. Just for me, it didn't work out that way, but everything is a learning experience, like you said. So although I had been through so much, like, I'm not thankful for it, but I'm kind of happy in a way that I was able to be resilient, to use it as a way to get better, because not all girls can do that. And I find it is disappointing that, like, some girls will stay in that cycle, and they will keep dating abusive partners, or they'll date people that aren't great for them. But I was lucky enough to have a good support system to kind of put me back on the straight and narrow. So yeah, at the end of the day, like, I have just found a lot of girls at the moment will settle. They settle a lot. They settle a lot for less, and I don't know. I can't be that type of woman anymore. I think I've done it for so long that, like, I'm able to wait now. I struggled with patience for so long.
I know. I do it. A lot of people just never go through that healing process, and they kind of evaluate what didn't work. I think that's, like, self-reflection is one of a very important skill that you gotta have as a person in life. That everything that we go through, you have to take the time and reflect. I know sometimes for a lot of people, like, accountability is really hard. Sometimes because relationships are both. Relationships is two people, so there are always two sides. So sometimes a lot of people don't want to self-reflect within their own shortcomings or their own mistakes or what happened. And instead of dealing with that, they're like, they're just move on to the next person. So yeah, if you're that type of person right now, jumping around from relationship to relationship,
take a breather.
Yeah, well, it's for me, it's like, it's common sense. Like, if you're doing something, it's not working out, then that's a sign, like, okay, clearly something's not working out. I need to figure out what that is. So if you're jumping from relationship to relationship, like I said, I'm saying this out of love, I'm not judging you, but if something's not working,
of course,
if I'm driving a car and then my car keeps breaking down, I need to lift up the hood and check out what the hell is going on. I'm not just gonna keep getting on the car and keep driving it. So it's anything we do in life, whether it's relationships, sex, if it's not working out, then clearly there's a problem. And then and every problem always comes back to you. So you got to figure out what that problem is by doing that self-reflection. And no matter how hard it is, I know it is hard, because when it comes to our emotions and in our heart, that's a lot of people don't want to go down that path. But if you go for relationship, that's a sign. That's a clear sign that you need. Yeah. I have friends like that. They're always popping up on my feed. I was like, oh, here we go again.
Ignorant bliss. That's what I say.
Here we go
100%.
Here we go again. Okay. Oh, nice. Found your new toy.
and I find one of the things I've always found, and it's kind of stuck in my head, is some people want to live in comfortable chaos rather than foreign happiness.
Oh yes, yeah.
It's been such a big
Yeah.
thing for me to hold that in my head. You want to stay comfortable in something that you think makes you happy, but it is so chaotic, versus something you don't know. It could happen, it might happen, but it could bring you more happiness than what you already know now. And so many people that would settle for that. And I don't know how you can function that way. But it's more so, like you said, taking that time to self-reflect and be self-aware of these things, not only for the other person and what they've done to you, but yourself. And some of the, like, I was a completely different person when I came out of the relationship. I had lost so many friendships. I was so different. And like you said, it's about what you think you want to prioritize versus what's important to you. And I had to take a whole year to rebuild friendships I had lost, because I had isolated myself so much. And then, like, again, just building my support system again. If you don't feel like that's a priority for you, you will constantly find yourself in these toxic situations, because you don't have that support. And so many people think that they can do it alone. You cannot do it alone. There's no possible way. And I think that's why some people struggle, because they're like, oh, I'm by myself, I don't have anyone. But if you take those first steps to reach out again, like, ask those people that you used to be close with, or know that there's people you can reach out to. Those are the baby steps that are going to get you over the big, the line, and get to your bigger picture. So asking for help, like you said, that communication, always going back to communication.
Yeah, but also I do also have a empathy or sympathy for a lot of women, because, like,
I do,
because we were talking about timeline, right? And why a lot of women settle. Because I feel like for a lot of women, there's this timeline for you guys to be married by 30.
Yes.
All right. So I feel like for a lot of women, like, if you when you guys get older, get closer to that, you guys have that biological clock within you, that as you guys grow older to get older and get closer to 30, I feel like I've seen this a lot as women. I know a lot of women that when they grew up, they were independent, but then as soon as they got close to 30, they just started, like, settling for anything.
Yeah.
Anything, because they did not want to go into 30 and not being married.
Yeah.
Do you feel that way sometimes? Do you feel that pressure that now you're 25, you got 5 more years, or you don't feel it at all?
Oh, no, 100%. I feel that pressure. I've made I made a TikTok about that, because I find a lot of Polynesian women struggle with that. Is that because your parents put a timeline on, and it's such a stigma to be a single woman at 30. That's
a worldwide stigma. It happens all society.
Yeah. But just to reach out to my own community and say to women, like, there's no timeline on love. Take your time, make sure that, when you do find that right person, no matter what age you're at, as long as it's the right type of love for you. Like, I couldn't imagine settling in a relationship at 28 and 29 just because it's before 30, and then it's not the person I don't want to be with again. And also, like, a lot of girls go through a lot of things at a young age. I think there's heaps of people that date at a young age. So by the time you reach your mid-20s, you're like, this is a time that I want to, take for myself. And then if I find myself in a relationship that, like, I've taken the time to self-improve on me. My dad puts a lot of pressure on me. He still does that. Although he is such a progressive dad, he still has that traditional mindset where I still want my daughter to be married by the time she's 30 and have kids. And he worries because I've been in such bad relationships before that I'm not open to dating. But I've told him, like, I'm just a lot more selective, and I don't think that's a bad thing, because, like, I've brought two boys men home, and I want to make sure that the person I bring home to my parents is the last one. I don't want to have these temporary relationships where my parents have to, get to know these men, and then they don't end up being the person that I know. And I know, like, that's a lot for them emotionally to go through, to build these relationships with our so-called partners that they think are going to be long-term, and then they're not at our house anymore, and they've met our families and they've come to family events. Those are the things that I know affect my parents the most. So that's why, although I feel pressure, I'm not hard on myself. I don't say to myself, oh, look, my dad's asking me if I have a boyfriend every week, so that means I need to get a boyfriend.
Yeah. Do you want to be married before 30?
Look, it's an ideal thing for me. Although I am
if it happens.
if I'm so progressive in the in the thought process that if you are married and you want to be by yourself and you want to be successful on your own, cool. But I guess because I have grown up with traditional values and like wanting to be married, like that is something I want for myself, 100%. It's just like I don't have a checklist, but it's more so just the feeling I get from a man, or if he values me as a person. That's all.
Okay.
I'm not looking at a checklist like, oh my God, he has to have this, because that's unrealistic. But just more so like what he can provide mentally and emotionally for me is more of a attribute towards myself rather than physical aspects. Yeah.
Okay, so now you so now for men today, what are the things that because we all have to have standards, right? We all have the standards as people. So what are you looking for now when you go into your future relationships? What are you looking for men now that you probably didn't look for before?
Look, I think it's more so if they have a plan. They don't have to have like a 5-year plan, 10-year plan, but something planned for yourself. And I always ask, like, what are your short and long-term goals? Because your short-term goals lead towards the bigger goal. And, that's something I look for. Just if they're working towards something.
What's the common response that you hear from men when you ask those questions?
No. Some of them don't say anything at all. Some of them still don't know. They're like, oh, I'm still figuring it out. And I'm like, well, surely by now you know what you want to do. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not a complex question. It's if you're not thinking about what you want to do for yourself, how are you going to provide for someone else?
Yes,
like you've got to take care of you first. So if
Yeah.
you don't know what you're doing, you're definitely not going to know what you're going to do with someone else in your life. And you can't expect that person to build you up. I feel like I've always been attracted to men that are like work in progresses, but they're not like a work in progress where they actually meet the goals that they want. They're just constant. I find like I'm constantly babying men into how to treat me. So, things that I didn't look for before is kind of just like if they have a plan, if they're at least thinking about things in the future, like marriage and stuff, we don't have to rush into that conversation. But when we get to that point in conversating, like, do you value that stuff? And just things we have in common. I think just if they have a lot of social groups and I ask them, do you get out often? Do you like being social? Do you have any hobbies and stuff? Because I never really asked other guys. It was more just, oh, I met them through rugby, or I met them through this and that. And I didn't really see that they had other interests. So I found I was always like glued to them as a person. Just kind of things that I look for.
I love what you said. You said something like, you're always attracted to guys like work in progress, guys you want to build up.
Yes.
I know. I forgot what I was reading. I read it a long time ago. It was like a psychological document. They were talking about like usually people that like to build other people up. Usually those types of people, there's something happened to them, like they're broken too. So usually if you're not whole as a person, and as far as your own personal value and your own self-worth, then naturally you feel better building other people up, for both men and women. If you're a guy, you're a girl, if you're not working on yourself, you're not confident with yourself, with your own self-worth value, then sometimes we kind of compensate that by building somebody else up, and we kind of find love through
making
that.
them whole. Yeah.
And we find healing and love through that. So I've heard that. So that's a sign. So if you're out there watching this and you like building people from scratch,
it's time for you to reflect on yourself and maybe see where you're at with your own life.
That is a sign.
That's it.
Because you can't build people up. I always tell people, you can't change somebody, you can't build somebody, you can't force somebody to want something that they don't want for themselves. So it's usually, and I see a lot of people in those relationships, they're trying to build. They take somebody from the bottom, and they try to mold them into the person they want.
Yeah, and that's it. And I found myself doing that. Is that because the men that I dated didn't want it enough for themselves. I was constantly putting in the work, and I was overtiring myself, building an ideal man that didn't want to be my ideal man. And that's why I found that when I came out of my second relationship, I had nothing for myself, because I'd given so much of myself mentally, physically, spiritually, everything, that I left nothing. So I was pouring from an empty cup, basically. That's the best way I can say it. Yeah. You're pouring from an empty cup. You can never do that, because at the end of the day, what are you pouring? You have no love for yourself. You have no standards for yourself. And, you think to yourself, oh, I'm building this person up so much, that must mean that I value myself. But really, it's just like they're benefiting so much, and then, you know, they're not reciprocating that type of growth. So I have no problem helping someone build, as long as you're doing that for me now. I don't want to keep feeling like I'm doing so much for someone else and they're not doing that back. So that's another thing that I've also realized that I've learned from my other relationships. I can't keep pouring from an empty cup. Yeah.
Yeah. So I do want to ask you. So now, like, do you like the younger men now, or you like older men now? What's your date? What's your maximum you're gonna date, and what's your minimum you're gonna date?
Okay, 2 years below, 5 years above. That's always kind of been a thing for me.
So 2 years below, 5 years above. So 30 and 23.
Correct.
Okay, you want to go above, higher?
I mean, look, if he's a good person and he wants to be a part of my life, and, you know, he's not rushing me into anything, I'll 100% date someone. Look, I dated someone 6 years older. I just think 8 years and above is a bit hard for me. Probably we're just at two different pages, and you know, he's definitely looking to settle down at a faster rate than probably what I want. But I'm not like restrained to that. That's kind of just a time. But like, I could probably date over 5 years, but like I said, it just depends on the person. Cool. But I couldn't go any more than 2 years below. I couldn't do it. No? They're just too immature.
No. Have you ever met a young mature person? No.
I've met mature women. I don't know about men.
No, it's a fact. It's a psychological fact that we mature later. You guys mature faster. Huh? They said that this may be I don't want to break a lot of women's hearts out there, but they say that a man doesn't really mature until he turns 30.
Yep. I well and truly believe that statement.
You guys mature like 18, 19, 20, 21, something like that. You guys are like by 21, a woman's already fully matured. You know, as far as mature.
I don't know if I'll say that about.
Well, no, I'm not all women. I'm not saying all women. Some
you
women
will find a lot of women that are like mature at that age. I have found that.
When I've had conversations with girls like 20, 21, and they're very mature.
Very
mature.
Together, very mature.
Exactly. But then most guys I meet at 2021, they don't know what they're doing.
Oh my gosh, it's such a struggle. And I find it so hard at the moment because the only people I'm getting hit on is from younger guys. And I'm like, I don't want you guys. You're still working on yourself. Yeah. Take that time. Take that time.
All right. That was a good conversation. You know, but we'll come back to that. You know, we have a lot more topics when it comes to dating. I do want to go into some other topics as well. I know you wanted to talk about sexuality in the Polynesian community. So what are the things you see? I know sex, you know, overall in most cultures, but especially in Polynesian culture, you know, sex is seen as a taboo. You know, people don't want to talk about it. It makes people uncomfortable.
Very uncomfortable.
But what are the things that you want to talk about? Things that you see personally when you come to sexuality in the Polynesian community?
Look, sexuality in our customs and traditions are based around Christianity. So I wholeheartedly get that being conservative is always going to be a part of our culture. Whether people don't want to mix religion and culture together, for Polynesians, it's intertwined. 100%.
Yeah.
So you can't separate the two because a lot of our beliefs and who we are as people are based around that. And I get that. However, I just think sex education is such a underrated topic for parents. Teaching your kids safe sex, or you know, at least having some type of knowledge around that is important. A lot of the kids, you know, because you grow up in strict households, end up being sneaky. They don't want to talk to their parents about anything. They'll engage in early, you know, sexual encounters. And you can find yourself in abusive kind of situations at young ages because you're so uneducated about what consent is, what you know is comfortable for you, how to treat women sexually, how to treat men sexually. Those are such big topics because I find a lot of and like you said, it's not just Polynesians, but women and men in general have experienced sexual abuse at a young age. because they can't identify what is right for them and what's wrong sometimes, or you kind of have someone telling you, oh, this is okay to do at your age, and you're 14 and 15 and you're naive to the situation. So that's what I worry about for our Polynesian youth, is that because you can't go to the people that are so important to you first about this topic, you're going to learn in other ways, practical experience that maybe you're too young for. And that's something that I find I wouldn't want someone to go through impractical experience first, because I think I hear so many heartbreaking stories, and they always tell me, oh, because I just didn't grow up knowing that stuff. I didn't know what it was. I didn't know that men shouldn't do this to me or anything like that. And also I think I've always grown up around sport. I know that's not going to be relatable for everyone, but I think cis looking men that are gay. There's a lot of men in the Polynesian community and in other ethnic communities that may look a masculine or certain way, but secretly like men. And I think so many men don't want to talk about that because it emasculates them as a person, because they don't want to celebrate sexual fluidity. And there's a lot of stigma around that conversation, that men that look a certain way can't be open about their sexuality because they don't look like a typical whawhawhinge, or they don't look like a typical gay man that we've grown up to know in the Polynesian community that dress more feminine. And also for women as well. So those are the type of things that I find are really hard to talk to. Even when I try and engage in that conversation with males that I'm interested now, they still don't want to talk about it. They're like, they don't want to share their opinions, or they say, oh, how can you talk about that and you're Catholic, or how can you believe in that and you've grown up in a Christian household? I try and not always let my religion dictate how I accept people and who they are. So such a big topic.
Yeah. And I know for a lot of people, it can be, you said it best, the reason why it's taboo, the reason why we feel uncomfortable because of religion, we've been taught at a very young age that, sex is evil, sex is a sin.
Yes.
Right. Which I totally understand that. And also, our parents didn't grow up talking about sex with their own parents. So naturally, they're not going to talk about sex with us. It makes them uncomfortable as well, just as much as we are comfortable. But I do believe that it is important. The reason why we need to talk about things, because, ultimately, I always believe that there's always, we're going to make a lot of decisions in life, but there's very big decisions we're going to have to make in life. And marriage is one of them. Who you're going to spend the rest of your life with. That's why make sure you find the right person is very important. And also, who you're going to procreate with, who you're going to have a kid with. So that's why I believe that we need to talk about sex, because once you have sex, that can lead to having a child. And then once you have a child, then that's a whole different path and responsibility that you have to forever take care of. So it's very important for us to make sure we have these conversations at an early age. And I've had conversations with a lot of men and women on my podcast about abuse, about molestation, about being abused, having experiencing that early in their life. And one of the things that they've always mentioned was like they didn't know what was going on, right?
Yeah.
So that's why they're unaware. They don't know what's the difference between inappropriate sexual touching and inappropriate sexual touching. You don't know as a kid. So especially when you coming from a family member, you think this person is the person that's supposed to love and protect you, and they're taking advantage of the situation. So and I love how you mentioned about consent, right? Teaching men about consent, teaching women about consent, because as children, when you go out there into the real world and then having sex for the first time, or put in a situation where people feel around in a situation where there is going to be sex, it's going to happen to you. You don't know how to say no. You don't know how. You don't know how to say no. You don't know how to say no because nobody's ever taught you the skill. Hey, if somebody does this, it's okay to reject. It's okay to say no, right?
Yeah.
Because do you want to say something about that? I'll say one.
No, it's just like I said, it's so heartbreaking because it's such a personal topic for myself, knowing people that have gone through that. Like, look, I'm so grateful that I didn't experience anything like that at a young age. But learning the full aspect of consent, and I had a friend tell me she had gone through something, and at a certain part of the interaction, she said she wanted to say no. And I told her, consent is not just saying yes first, and then whatever happens after, if you feel uncomfortable, you have to still go through it. At any time that you say no, it's no.
Yeah.
Whether you're a man or a woman, and that's what people don't understand about consent. You can say yes at first, but if they say no later, it still holds just as much importance if they said no from the beginning.
Or during the sex.
During it.
Yeah.
And they don't think that that's giving consent from themselves. And that's what I mean about understanding at whole what situation you're putting yourself in and what you can do and what you can't do and all of that. And also just, I don't know, I think like finding a lot of young teen pregnancies are still happening so often. And it, like I said, it comes to that lack of education. Education is key for all things. And I don't mean it has to be open conversations at the dinner table about sex. It's that's not what I'm trying to say.
Like you gotta have set conversations aside. Yeah,
of course. But like obviously, I would love at some point for Polynesians to be able to be open about sexuality and not make it such an uncomfortable conversation, or you're trying to sexualize the conversation. That's not it at all. Because they always think if you bring up that topic, like it's, oh my God, like, I don't want to talk about that. And they feel, they feel like it's something that is inappropriate. I don't try and think it's a super normal conversation, but I try and normalize it with like a lot of my younger friends that I consider like little sisters to me, or little brothers to me. Like I don't want them to ever think I'm talking about it because they have to be doing it, but it's like just giving them that extra support if they find themselves in those situations. Yeah.
I believe the reason why it's more important than ever to have these conversations earlier is because of social media and the internet. Yes. Kids have access to seeing more sexual graphics and videos at an early age, so they're already exposed to this earlier. So that's why you got to have these conversations earlier. I remember for me, I didn't really. I mean, of course, like I didn't really start thinking about sex like very like seriously. Of course, we all think about it as a teenager, as kids. We always talk about it, but that wasn't like something I was obsessed with.
Exactly.
But now I hear kids now talking about sex like 12, 13, early. 14 years old. 13. Look at social media. Go on TikTok. Go on platform. If you go on TikTok and Instagram, you see kids. You see kids already sexualizing themselves and talking about sex
at 14, 15.
Even younger.
Even younger.
Right.
And that's it. You're seeing these people on social media, unbeknowing of their age and thinking, oh, they're doing it, I can do it, regardless of how old you are, because you feel like that's socially acceptable. So regardless of what age is appropriate for you to do these things, there's no age anymore. They think, oh, like it's on social media and that's the way I'm going to gain popularity and likes. And that's so important, like instant gratification for our generation this time is like, gaining that popularity and that interest at a young age, because that's the only way for them to have self-esteem. And that's the only thing I hate about social media, is that so many people are so dependent. And I was like that as well. I was 100% like that. That's why I say it, is that I was constantly looking towards social media for that instant gratification, for people to celebrate me, even though I had it physically around me. Because it is, again, back to your ego and your self-esteem as a person. If you have low self-esteem, you are always going to depend on social media to give you that boost. And again, find yourself in situations that you shouldn't be in, and regretting it later.
So that's we have to talk about these things, because choosing our sexual partners and choosing and having sex is one of the most important decisions we're going to make in life. And it's really good for us to teach these kids practical skills and knowledge and ways to protect themselves, to make the right decision for themselves. And also, this is for all the parents out there, when you try, I always feel like that as teenagers, if you tell kids, if you try to avoid the topic if you try to avoid the topic or tell kids something that they should not do, as
they'll
kids,
find it out in different ways.
But we'll always do the opposite.
Yes,
so
of course.
I just realized this as a kid. Like when my parents would tell me something, it's just our natural nature as adolescents to rebel.
To go and do it. Yeah.
We all go through that rebelling phase. So
I was the same.
So I think as a good parent is better to teach them about it and expose them to it, in a healthy way. So that way, because I just know as teenagers, like we think that we know everything. That's just how we are as teenagers.
Exactly.
We think we know everything. So if you tell them, oh, you listen to me, don't do this, we're gonna go and do it.
Go to the exact opposite. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. Like, although like I've had such a healthy relationship with my parents to talk about relationships now, it was not always like that. Like I was the same as a teenager. I wanted to find things out for myself at a certain point because it's like there was no lack of communication about like sex or anything like that. I mean, look, and that's kind of where religion kind of made me resist from that. I had heavily, because I had grown up in a Catholic household, although like I was curious, I still kind of held value and things like that with sex. And it's maybe because I had such a conservative mum. I don't know, maybe that played a role in it. But for other people, I know that obviously like sex was introduced at such an early age. And you know, teen pregnancy or having kids when you maybe didn't want to have it at the time, or you know, being with someone that doesn't love you, it all comes and stems from, you know, like those early education stages, and how you view sex and talking about it, and you know, educating yourself, I suppose. Yeah, because it's not a big thing like to talk about protection or like, you know, other avenues to prevent pregnancy and stuff. So yeah.
So yeah, that's I think that's the most important thing, is that we just got to talk about it and educate ourselves on it. And I feel like it's going to come down to our generation to make those changes. It's not going to happen within our parents.
No, not our parents' generation, of course not.
I also want to go into I know you wanted to talk about parenting relationships, you know, creating good habits with our kids. What do you mean by that?
You know, like I said, growing up with different types of friends, I did realize that they've always expressed to me. I'm going to make a point before I say this, is that obviously it's circumstantial for everyone. So my experience growing up is not going to be the same as another Polynesian growing up in a different socioeconomic, and, you know, socioeconomic area, you know, plays a big role in that. Yeah. Like a kid growing up in Mount Druitt and having 9 siblings versus me growing up in, you know, in a West Sydney and having 4 siblings is going to have 2 different things. So I'm not going to say that it's going to happen overnight, of course not. But like you said, starting that conversation, good parenting traits that I think maybe, and I hope can happen for our generation is, like I said, the kind of the topics we talked about before, introducing communication at a early age. I don't know. I've been disciplined. I've been disciplined to the F degree from my parents, you know, like, and I think like a lot of people will disagree with some cultures and how they discipline their kids, but maybe also just having conversations with your kids about their emotions. And it's not always like, oh, I need to discipline them if this doesn't happen over small things. I can understand really big things, but then like if you're constantly disciplining your kids physically and they shelter themselves from talking to you all the time, the lack of communication is so big as an adult. Like I have really close friends to me now that like can't even talk about real simple things because they were never ever given that opportunity at a young age, and then tell me, oh, I'm like this because, you know, when we were younger we were never able to speak, or we weren't allowed to speak, or we weren't able to express how we feel, you know. So I'm not a parent myself, so every parent is different, and I'm not going to sit here and be a parent expert and say, because I was raised this way, because I feel it is a bit of a touchy subject, because some parents will be like, well, how would you know? You're not a parent, you know, or you don't have kids of your own, and that's a lot of like
you're speaking from the perspective of a child. That's what
of a child.
For all those parents out there, if you're watching this and
if you are a parent, you know, I'm not here to attack you or anything like that, and I think it's just about, you know, like you said, it's our generation where we're able to create these type of new lifestyles and kind of, you know, relationships with our kids, and you know, that's what I think that's the basis of what I'm talking about with, like, you know, building those good parenting relationships with your kids, open communication and being able to you know, express emotions and stuff. So
so building relationship with kids, it is important. I do want to ask you, when you have kids one day, are you going to discipline them? physically?
I mean, I hope I don't get in trouble, but look,
Because I know for me, I won't. For me, I won't. I'm not gonna discipline my kids physically. I'm not gonna
physically.
It's funny because I grew up in a home where we were very. That was like the only way of. That was the only way. That's how we were. I was raised by a tough grandma, so she like beat the hell out of us.
I can imagine.
But yeah, for me, when I have kids, I don't think I'll have it in me to. I won't. Yeah, I wouldn't even do it. I wouldn't even do it. I'll just talk to them. And plus, I've learned a lot in my life how to understand mental health, understand behavior, understand ways to see things before it happens. So I'll try to build a relationship early with my child so we can talk about things. Because I do believe like one of the things I've seen a lot of Polynesians, especially if they've never built like emotional stability or intelligence with themselves, understand their emotions. Because sometimes as Polynesians, one thing I do see that for a lot of kids that if they've been abused or if they've been, not abused, if they've been physically disciplined their whole life, then whenever.
But look, and some have been abused as well.
Yeah,
there's a fine line,
abuse.
like you said. Yeah.
Then that's always their answer for every conflict in their life.
Yes.
So whenever they come into a conflict with their partner, with their job, with other people, like their first reaction is like anger and violence and frustration. So and I noticed that within myself early on. Whenever I had a physical whenever I get you. Whenever I had a verbal altercation with somebody or getting into conflict with somebody, I always reacted out of anger. Like the first thing that came out of I felt was like, I want to beat the hell out of this dude or this person or this girl. All right, which I never did, but I just felt I felt that.
It's your thought process because that's what you know.
Yeah,
you've been conditioned that way.
Yeah, so I always felt like, why do I feel this way every single time something happens? The conflict, I always want to act out of anger, and I realized, it's not because that's how I was raised. You know, every time I had a conflict with my elders, I always was physically disciplined. Wanted to fight them. So of course, I respect. I get beat, but in my mind, I'm like, I want to punch the hell out of my elder right now, but I know I can't because we're not allowed to.
Of course.
But so for me, just based on that knowledge, when I have my kids one day, I don't want to discipline them. I will also, I will of course let them, discipline them as a parent, but like with words, with communication, and let them know, okay, this is not acceptable. This is acceptable, and this is what we need to do. And I feel like for a lot of parents, they do this, and I often have a conversation with my kids. I'm sorry, not my kids, my friends. I always have a conversation with my friends. They're like, man, like how can we? Because one of the things as Polynesians, like we want to build tough, like having tough kids or very strong kids is really, really important to us. Being strong. So for a lot of people, they think that how can you build very strong kids without discipline? Because that's one of the concepts I hear from people. The only way you can build tough kids is you have to beat them up.
Physically disciplined.
That's the mentality of Polynesians, right? The only way you can make people tough is beat them up so they can be tougher. But no, you don't have to go that route. There's a different route.
But it also contributes to stereotypes and stigmas that they place around our community. Physical violence. I get personally offended because one of the instant things that people think about me is, I've been in a physical fight. I've never been in a physical fight in my whole life. Which comes to a shock to people, which then re-offends me because I'm thinking, well, just because I'm Polynesian doesn't mean that I've been in fights or I throw myself in fights or anything like that. Like probably with my siblings, of course, but not outside. And even now, like even my guy friends and stuff, it's exactly like what you said. Like their first instinct is to be in a physical fight because they don't know how to use their words to resolute any situation. And that doesn't mean, and then they think, because they're dumb or, they're uneducated, they don't know how to, articulate themselves. And that's what I hate is that it keeps adding to the stereotypes that people think of us because we don't build those foundation tools at a younger age. And I hate that people think that way about our community because we're so much more than that. That's why, I have been known to talk too much, but I will keep talking to my friends if that means that they're able to change his behaviors before it's too late. And they end up carrying this on generationally to their kids. I don't want to pass those bad traits towards their kids. I don't want to think that like my closest friends are going to raise kids like that. So coming back to your question, would I physically discipline my kids?
Yeah. Would you?
I would hope I never want to do that. I mean, I make jokes about it because that's how I grew up.
That's a yes.
You know what? But also talking about it, like, I will obviously go to conversation first. I don't ever want it to reach the point where I'm like, I want to put my hands on you, you know, because I know how that feels. It also did affect me regardless. Like, even though I say to myself, well, look, I've turned out perfectly fine. And I think that's what everyone's going to say when you get physically like, I'm a good person now. It doesn't matter. But I know mentally and physically what it can do to a person, regardless if it's your child, you know. And it did make me a person where I didn't want to open up to my parents at a teenage year. Like I didn't. I felt like if I was going to be honest about something, it was going to be result in I'm going to get a hiding. So, you know, no. For now, I'm going to say no. Just because I don't want my kids to be dishonest with me or feel like they're going to be punished so badly to the point where like they can't trust me as a parent to tell me anything. Because like even my dad struggles now with me at 25 saying, why am I always the last person to find some things out when it comes to things that I still find uncomfortable to tell my parents? And stuff like that. So yeah, that's just my aspect on disciplining and you know.
And that's the thing, like because that's always a conversation, right? Okay, if you don't discipline kids, then your kids might be soft.
Especially with the men. With
the men. So for me, it's like, you know what? Even if my kid becomes soft, I can build somebody that's very soft into a strong man. That's really, really hard, you know. But if somebody that's really, really strong, I'm trying. I forgot the quote. There was a quote that perfectly explained. I'm trying to think of that quote. I'm sorry, it just came out of my mind.
Don't apologize. That's okay.
No. But I think the thing for me is just, you know, I'd rather be soft to my kids, but have open communication with them, and so they can come to me when things are happening to them. And I think for me, I think for me, it would be really hard to live with myself if something happened to my kid and he never told me about it. I could have made a difference. So you know that would hurt me a lot more. So if my kid ends up being very, you know, very soft, but I do, you know, we can work on that. But I feel like communication is something that's so important now that I just don't want something to happen to them that and they don't tell me something about it, and I could have helped them out or something to avoid that situation.
I mean, you know, emotional intelligence is so underrated. And I think like, you know, people, when they automatically think of intelligence, they think academically intelligent, but also understanding your emotions. Like, I think even talking to my brothers now, although they're great and they're great at communicating, when it comes to that topic, they shut down. They don't necessarily want to talk about being emotional because they have been raised like that, in a sense where I am a strong person physically and I'm great, but I don't want to dive into talking about emotions or being vulnerable. And then obviously women being conditioned to think that if a man is openly communicating about his emotions, that makes him soft, so that means he's not a real man. So it's not even just men judging men, it's women judging men. And then men feeling like, oh well, if she thinks that that's the perception of a real man, then I can't act that way. So you know, women also need to change that aspect of what you think a real man is, and how you view men. And you can't, and women are the advocates for emotional intelligence and wanting men to be open, but when they open themselves up, they automatically go back to that traditional thinking of, oh, that's a bit too much, you shouldn't be acting that way, you're acting like a girl. That's like the first thing that a lot of women go towards. So you can't advocate for something, and then when you receive it, you're like, oh, it's a bit too much for me, it's overwhelming.
Well, I think there was a study that was done. I was reading on it. I read this book a long time ago. It was talking about like love language, and how men and women are different. Men and women are different, and the things that we're attracted to as far as a partner is different because of our biology and how we are and how we're built. And I know you just mentioned about, you know, women, they want a guy that's emotional, but then at the same time, if he's too emotional, then she's gonna be
too much.
So much. and it was interesting when I read this book. They were saying that for women, like you guys prefer men. You prefer your man to be strong.
Yeah.
All right.
That's I feel like it's like a biological thing for all women to be built that way. But
even though, as I'm saying, and I always hear this from a lot of guys, that's what we hear from women. We want guys to be open. We want guys to to open up to us. But then when we do open up, then you guys push us away, right? But then
I've done that myself. That's why.
Yeah, but the reason why I bring this up because I was so like it's in your nature. It's a natural thing. So of course we have to know the difference. There is something that exists called toxic masculinity that you just mentioned before. So just because a guy opens up doesn't mean he's less masculine, or just because a woman, what was your other example? The guy talks about his
a woman
feelings.
being with an emotional guy. Yeah.
So, but so for a lot of the one thing the book was teaching a lot of men is, I guess what they were saying is like open up to your woman, but don't open up fully, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No.
So,
and that makes total sense to me.
they were just talking about like for a lot of women, like you guys care about because your love language for a lot of women, you guys care about security. That's something that's important to your biological nature. You want a guy that's going to protect you, provide for you, because
feel secure.
Feel secure. Security is so important to you guys. And the guy they're usually attracted to, or you end up marrying, is the guy that can protect you and provide for you, that makes you feel safe the most. So if a guy is emotionally just talking about too emotional or be too vulnerable, then to you biologically
yes.
That means he's no longer a man that can protect, provide for me. And so that's your natural urge, like, you know what, this is too much. So what I'm saying is sometimes as ladies, like, you're not doing it purposely. It's just you guys just our love language is different. Nature. It's a biological nature. If a guy is too vulnerable or too emotional or acts too much of a woman, feminine, we talk about feminine and masculine energy. If a guy exerting feminine energy, then you're feminine already. So you're not going to be attracted to feminine energy. You want a masculine energy. The same thing for me as a man. Like I have a lot of masculine energy. So if I'm around a girl and then she acts like a man, a lot of I don't care how beautiful she is.
It's just not it for me.
I'm like, it's not. I have nothing wrong. It's just I want to be with the world. Like I said, there's a yin and a yang. There's a balance in everything. Man, woman,
that's what
yin, yang, light, dark. Right?
Exactly what I say. Yeah, I think it's just finding a balance. Hey, being open to having conversations with men emotionally, but like you said, your biological nature will always come into contact with how you feel and what you're attracted to from men. So
this is advice to all the men out there. If your woman wants you to be open, if your woman wants emotional availability disorder, like she wants you to open up to her, this is what I would say to a lot of young guys. This is my advice, so don't take this as a Bible.
No, it's okay. It's good to share.
In my personal opinion, I always give them what they want.
Yeah.
So when they ask, so whatever they want, I just give them the answer they want to me, so they can keep them happy. I don't tell them the full story. So because I do understand, like women, like they want masculine energy from a guy. They want to feel protected. So if a woman asks me, hey, if she asks me a question about that I need, that she wants to find, and I realize, oh, this is a question. This is a time she just wants me to be emotional available to her, then I'll just give her whatever she needs at that moment.
Yeah.
But I'm not gonna open like if she says, you know what, is something wrong, then that's one of the signs. If she says something like, is something wrong, then that in my mind, okay, this is a emotional time. Okay. In my mind. It clicks in my mind.
Okay.
Oh, if a girl says, hey, something wrong, something going on, I know there's something that she needs from me emotionally.
Okay.
Right. So
but don't you feel like that's inauthentic? Like you're not 100% like being honest with the conversation because you've already predetermined how you're going to act? Or do you feel like it's just a male thing that males do?
No, it's just
I don't know.
No, so I mean, for me, because of now have more knowledge now and understand like human attraction, and when it comes to feminine masculine energy, I just realized that this is natural. This is what women want. This is what men want, right? So when a woman's like, when a woman asks me questions about, like, what's going on, everything good, like, just random, you guys sometimes do that, just ask us random things, or you guys drives us nuts, by the way. Then now I've learned, so at this point in my life, that's whenever they ask questions like that, they usually want some type of emotional intimacy from me. So at that time, I just like, you know what? So I ask her, what do you mean? I'm like, it's about asking questions, communication. I'm like, what do you mean? Am I doing something wrong, or is something going on? And this is, I guess is okay. I guess we're on a whole like a teaching session right now. So when women ask questions, my advice to you, get them to be specific. Don't let them generalize it.
Yeah, I agree.
So if you stay in the generalizations, you're gonna be playing a roller coaster, and it may lead to an argument between you and her. So whenever if I'm dating somebody in my past relationships, they'll ask me a question, I would just ask, what do you mean? Like, is there something you see? Because I always tell them I don't know what's going on. I'll just be honest. I don't know what's going on. And then
because they've obviously asked you to, because they've got something on their mind that they want to talk about.
Yeah. So sometimes, so sometimes, like for men, we're very direct. So if we see something wrong, we'll just tell you what the problem is, and we'll just tell you what the problem is. For women, you guys go around in circles. So I'll just ask you something. I'll just ask them about something. Is there something wrong? Is there something I did, or where it's going? And then I just want them to be specific about it. And then they'll bring it up. I saw you do this. I saw you talking to this. I saw you did this. So I saw you like this picture, a comment here on this person's profile. And then
it's kind of like beating around the bush, like kind of just ask it wholeheartedly.
Or I guess I can, if I come home, usually the first thing I do is like say hello to her or say something. Then one day I came home and just went straight to my room. Then something's wrong. So sometimes it's misinterpretations of what you do. So I always feel like a lot of guys. So like it all always comes down to communication. But yeah, that's one thing I just noticed for a lot of. If they ask me that question, I'll be very specific about it. I'll ask to be specific. Then whatever that specific question is, and then I'll open up about it. Oh, you know what?
Yeah.
The reason why I came home and I didn't say hello to you, I didn't kiss you, and I went straight to my room. I just had a rough day at work. So it was work. I'm like, I had a rough day at work. That's all it is. I'll figure it out. But the mistake a lot of men will do is like they'll go in detail. No, I feel like that's something I do notice. I do see with a lot of men and women regarding relationships is I guess that's the topic of everybody that's listening. One is too much, because I know women. I do know a lot of women say they want emotional intimacy with a man, but at the same time, I do know there is something called too much emotional intimacy, especially for men. Let me ask you: do you prefer a guy that's he's going to be emotionally open to you, but you feel like there is a level like it's just too much for you?
Yes, I guess like personally I've experienced as well, like maybe someone that's too much. So with me, I love open communication. If he says like there is something that's bothering me, I've had like so and so has happened, whatsoever, I will 100% listen to that. Like I think that's fine. I don't think that's ever too much for me. Not every woman is like that, and I get that. Like some women just don't want to dive into anything more than, I had a bad day, and that's it for them. But for me, I'm 100% open to that. I think because I'm such an emotional person, and I don't want him to feel like I can't be a person that he can confide in about those things. So I think personally for me, I think that's great. I don't think that's too overbearing. I think just too overbearing is when I feel like I'm emotionally responsible for you. That's when it becomes too much, where I feel like centering your happiness and all your emotions onto me then does feel like a burden. So I have no problems with you expressing how you felt on the day. if you want to dive into that, if something's bothered you, if some person has made you feel a certain way, I think that's okay. That's just you, unloading. And I don't think that's a burden. It's just, I have had men that have obviously, and like you said, it comes back to your mental health, where I feel like I've then had to be an emotionally responsible for them because they don't want to unpack things about their feelings and they don't know how to express themselves properly, or they've bottled it up for so long that like it comes out in such an aggressive manner, and therefore like it's overbearing for me as a person. So that's when I think it just becomes a bit too much for me. It's kind of like an emotional explosion, and I've kind of felt like it's then mainly my fault, because then I thought, oh, maybe then he can't open up to me all the time and that's why it's progressed to this, or he just hasn't worked on himself enough to communicate properly.
Yeah, and that's what I was I know before, that's all I was saying is like, for women, you guys want a masculine man. You guys want a man that's gonna be a protector, provider, and lead you, right? And that's what I think you were mentioning before, like, when I asked like what kind of man do you want early in our conversation when you were talking about relationships, you said you want a guy that has a plan. We want a guy that has a purpose. He knows what he's doing. So you want to know, you want a guy that knows where, like, he has that he knows where he's a leader. He wants to know where he's gonna take you, right?
Yeah, or like where we're gonna go together. I don't necessarily think I want a man that's like gonna do things for me, but like I think if it's just someone I can share leadership with, I can share experiences with,
you want to feel secure,
and
you want to feel secure.
Of course. I think everyone would be lying, men or women, if you don't want to feel some sort of security, like financially, mentally, physically with your partner. Like it's just like you said, biological nature for you to want that for yourself.
Yeah, I think I think just from the male perspective, I feel like when it comes to security, it's that's more valuable to you guys as women. Like you want a guy that makes you feel secure and safe. For me, when I meet a woman, I don't need her to make me feel safe and feel protected or feel secure, because I know that's what I'm gonna do. That's what I'm gonna provide. I just want her to be, to be that woman for me. I just want her to be the woman for me, that partner for me, to support me. So I'm just looking for, that's why I'm telling you, for anybody out there, you gotta read and do your research and read books about male and female attraction and masculine, feminine energy. It will pretty much explain like things that
just how it is naturally.
Explain why. It pretty much explains to you why you're attracted to certain things in men. Because sometimes I do hear conversation from women like, I can't believe I keep dating these same guys. I keep breaking my heart.
Interesting.
or men too. Like I hear from a man, there's this certain type of woman I'm always attracted to, but for some reason it's not working out. And until you understand you want to attract what the things that you're attracted to, you can kind of reverse engineer. Okay, why you're attracted to those certain people, and make those adjustments, so that way you can, instead of attracting those wrong people, you can attract them. You can attract the right people that still have the same level of attraction you have to the wrong people, but there's just something that's missing there that you're not paying attention to.
Yes. Yes.
So, 100%. But for you guys, it's for women. I do notice that it's important for you guys. Security, protection, and having that feeling safe is important. So that's why I've learned now in my life that if I know a woman wants my emotional need to open up or be vulnerable with her, one thing I guess now at this point is, say I'll open up to her, but I'll always make sure that that it always ends in a positive note.
It's within reason. It's within reason. You're not overbearing her or anything
like this. Like, perfect example, if I had a rough day at work, right, and I go home and she says, hey, what happened, right? I guess for all the guys out there, if you listen to this, because they teach these things, and I've gone through it in my own life, and I realized, oh wow, I should have done that. It's just sometimes when women are like, they want to know like, well, how we really feeling inside, and I feel like that's I feel like for a lot of women, like if you start telling her like how you really feel as a man, it's your natural biological nature to be turned off by that and not feel safe, because you want a guy that's safe, that makes you feel safe and secure. So and I know for a lot of men it's all different, Some guys, some men are, they keep things in. For some men, and they're very healthy, they can open up, and then for some men that like they just open up too much.
Yeah. Yes. No, that is true. That is true. 100%. Yeah.
And what I found, because I've seen all of it.
Sorry, if I'm like thinking, it's because I'm reflecting on conversations I've had with girls, and I'm like, no, yes, that has happened.
Yeah. So what I found was, like, for me, is like what I've noticed is what always settles both sides is, what it's just opening up to them, but always make sure it comes in the way of like of leadership, that you're not coming out as a victim. That, for me, it's like, if you're gonna talk about your problems, but talk about problems that you have a solution to it, and then you're gonna always go back to making her feel safe and secure. So if I'm having a rough day at work, and she asks me, "Hey, is something going on?" or at work, I'll be like, "Yeah, I had a rough day at work, but I'm gonna figure it out. We have, we'll get back on track and we'll make it happen." But just saying, sometimes a lot of guys will just be too open. Especially in the beginning, and I'll say this, especially in the beginning of a relationship. If you're somebody you've been for a long time and you have a ride or die, a great solid relationship,
fair enough.
You can't be being more emotionally intimate with that person and be vulnerable with that person. But what I found, especially if you're with somebody if you guys are just dating in the beginning stages, I do notice for a lot of women at that time, you're still trying to figure out, is this the type of man that's gonna be with me and protect me and provide for me? Yeah, and if you're too overbearing or too over emotional, vulnerable, be vulnerable with them, then naturally they're like that, because you guys want stability, right? That's what, right? You guys want you guys are attracted to stability. That's one thing I've noticed. The stability is important to you guys. So the more stable a man is, the more attractive you are to them. The more unstable they are, then that relationship is always going to be those rocky relationships.
Do you feel like it's the same with males though? Like, do you feel like when you meet an unstable woman, your natural nature is to want to like help them, or it's not as big of a deal if they're not as put together versus what a woman thinks of a man? Like, what do you like, what do you look for in a woman? Like, say if a woman, it was the same as a male, was too overbearing, like really emotional, I don't know, I guess I don't read as much or maybe dive into it, with books or online reading or anything about that. But just like from a male perspective, how do you view women that are emotionally unstable or maybe a little bit too much emotionally?
Let me see. Well, emotionally unstable. So when you say emotionally
if she was too open in the beginning, and say the roles were reversed, and you said to her it's like a casual date thing, like, how was work? And then she just goes on a rampage of her own emotions and she starts unloading. Like, how does that initially make you feel as a male?
Well, for me, the thing is, like, when a woman is like emotional, for me, that's normal to me, because that's how we see women.
Naturally,
we see you guys. We see you guys emotional. You guys talk about your feelings. So for me, that's not a turn off for me, because that's just that's just what that's just normal for you, for what I expect out of a woman. Right. I think it's different from a female's perspective, because naturally, you guys are looking for a man that's going to give you security and stability. For us, for me, like, if I meet a woman that's always talking about her stuff that she's going through, for me, like, that's what I expect out of it. And it's not something that's going to be turned off, because that's also feminine too. Talking about emotions is a feminine trait, so. For a lot of guys, are very masculine. That own medium, the more feminine they are, the more attracted you are to them. So, so as long as, if she talks about her emotional issues, I don't think it's a problem. If I like her, if I love her, and I want to support her. It's just when she starts talking about, like, hurting herself or psychotic things, that may be okay. Whoa, it's a
I mean, that's the point.
I don't know if I could deal with that, but if she's talking about her stuff and what she goes through, and she always talks about it, then I don't mind.
Oh, okay, interesting. Yeah, no, that's fair. I think that would be like most men anyway, because like you said, it's like natural for women to openly express how they feel and so forth and stuff. Also a feminine trait. So, interesting. I just thought I'd ask you.
Let me ask you a question. Would you be
Mhm.
okay with a guy that everything's good with him, except he doesn't open up to you, except he's not willing to open up to
sorry.
you?
Sorry, give me 1 second. Supposed to do. Yes. Sorry.
No.
What did you want to?
No, I want to ask you is if you meet a guy that if he meets all your he's a good guy, treats you right, loves you, provides for you, but he is not willing to be emotional, be vulnerable with you. He's not going to talk about his feelings ever, but he's good in everything else. Are you okay with that?
No.
No,
I can't do it.
No,
because then I just feel like there's a level of honesty that we can't reach, and
no, he's honest. He's honest.
No, but see, like, I want to be, and like I said, I guess it just depends on the female, because although it is a natural nature for women to want stability, at the same time, I guess personally for me, I would want him to share emotional vulnerability to an extent. Like you said, it doesn't have to be to the point where it's like I have to know everything and everything going on with him.
Yeah.
But if there's just no emotional vulnerability with me, I feel like I'm not being able to provide that comfortability for him to be open and honest a bit. And so although, like you say, it is honest, I don't know, I feel like there's a part that I just don't know about him that I'm never going to know. So I would struggle with that.
Like emotion, when you say like vulnerability, like what, like you want him to share, like what things that you want him to share?
Yeah, so I guess like the things that you spoke about where you say innately women will say, oh, like he's not emotionally stable if he opens up about as simple as things as like his day of work, or if he's struggling in sport mentally and he needs that extra support. If he's not able to tell me about day-to-day things like training wasn't the best, I just feel like I'm in a position where I'm not doing my best at sport, or I get that you can get you have other people to talk to, like maybe your own friends or your family, but I guess for me, like I want to be engaged in those struggles, because that's what's going to build us as a couple. At least from my perspective, like I said, it's not going to relate to everyone that's listening to us. But for me, like, I want to be a part of those struggles, because if I'm a part of those struggles, then I can wholeheartedly know where you've been through in order to get through your successes. And, I want to be able to feel like I've played a small part in that. If I'm not able to physically help you, then I can mentally help you. And it's not to the point where like, I'm doing it for you, but like, as long as we can share in those moments where you feel like you need to be vulnerable at some point. I think that's why for me, I would struggle if he just didn't want to open up to me at all emotionally about how he feels, or, be able to come to me about those things. So, yeah.
What if you meet a guy that he will only be emotional vulnerable to you if you ask, but he will never come to you?
Sorry, ask the question again. So if I met a guy that was
he was like when everything was good, with him. He everything was cool. He treats you right and everything. But when it comes to like emotional vulnerability, he's never gonna come to you and talk about these things unless you ask. But if you ask, he'll open up to you. But if you don't ask him, he'll never come to you. So he's still willing to open up to you, but you have to initiate it. He's not gonna initiate it.
Geez, that's a tough question though. Because I feel like some of these questions are just not black and white for me. Like it's just
and the reason why I'm talking
because then it makes me, because then I guess like because and some women will feel this way. It's just like, well, why do I have to keep asking you? That means that obviously we're not at that level where you can just openly come to me. So I then again I question myself as a woman, saying, well, am I doing my job to make him feel secure in himself? Because see, like, innately women are providers. We always want to provide, we always want to give, we always want to feel like we're doing our best with our men. And if
supporters.
I'm able to change, we're just naturally givers. So like for me, it's just like, am I giving myself emotionally enough? And he, because you guys are always supporting us emotionally, for him to, come to me and I can emotionally support him in a way.
Okay. No, because I feel like one of the biggest, I feel like one of the biggest, and this is, I feel like one of the biggest problems of why the dating is people finding hard to attract a lot of people today, is I feel like is that it's not because because a lot of people don't understand like human attraction and the difference between men and women. And I feel like in today's culture, and you see this all the time, like in today's culture of where you call it feminism or you call it modernism, where they've grouped men and women as far as attractive. What we want, it should be equal. If that makes sense. So right, so like, and no, because I've had these conversations with a lot of girls, like just like you, like, and that's what they say. I want a guy that's he has to provide emotional vulnerability to me, and I want that type of relationship. And then the thing is, most guys are not gonna be emotional. There's a very select few of guys that have like emotional intelligence that can like open that up to you. Very select few. But most guys, the majority of the guys that I meet, like most of them are the extreme. Either they're either too open, or they're just not. They're closed off. And then the people in the middle, it's very hard to find a guy in the middle that can do both. And and I guess that's that's why I wanted to bring it up, because I've had a lot of women like, you know, I want to open up, but then I always have to explain, you know, for a lot of guys, like our love language, the way we are, like some of us are just not open like that.
Yeah.
And then
So, I mean, going off the point, the problem I found though sometimes is okay, like, so take the extreme that you say he's not emotionally available at all, and fair enough. Like you said, males are kind of conditioned to be that way. And I
that's what I'm saying.
But I've then found myself being in situations where they're not emotionally available, and then, you know, say and that's the thing with abuse, is that sometimes you have not understood where they've come from or how they've grown up in order for them to act a certain way or be a certain way. So like my previous relationship, very closed off, didn't talk too much, and he was very, very, very like picky about what he told me in terms of how he grew up. And so I couldn't really grasp why he ended up being so manipulative or why he was this way until he kind of explained how he grew up. And that was bringing some sort of emotional vulnerability towards our conversation about being honest with how he was and maybe how it shaped him. And because I was unaware of so much he went through emotionally growing up, I found it hard to understand why he was the way he was. So that's why I guess I find it hard when they're not emotionally available at all, is that like they can be a certain way, and I understand that it's not like their priority to tell women how they feel, but I struggle to understand them wholeheartedly as a person.
Do you feel like and what I want to say like against that? Do you feel like that? Because I feel like what he just explained to you about, I feel like that's most men are that way. Yeah. So do you feel like that you kind of, so, you know, because of that bad experience, then, because I feel like that what you're saying is like you're associating, you had the relationship you had was guys that were emotionally unavailable, but
emotionally damaged in a sense, I suppose. Yeah.
Well, they were open with you, right? And what I'm saying is most guys are like that. They're not open, but that doesn't necessarily mean like they're a bad guy. Like there's a lot of good guys out there that can treat you right, but they're just but they grew up in the same circumstances that your previous relationships, but they're good. They're good. You know, they're still good people, but yeah, go ahead.
I get that. I think like look, an alternative, if they don't want to be emotionally vulnerable with their partner, that at least they have some sort of support to talk about that, whether that's even in their own friendship groups or if they're able to unload in some sense. I don't want them to feel like they're overwhelmed themselves with so much problems because they don't want to be portrayed in a certain way. But you know, that's why I think it's so great that there's a lot of movements towards mental health for men and being able to talk in men's circles, because if you don't want to do that with your partner, at least you have another avenue to talk about your feelings with the same gender. And then that's great. That means it's men building men. And then you're able to say, oh, well, I've been able to, you know, change my behaviors, or although I am conditioned a certain way, like I can open up a little bit more than before. It doesn't have to be to the full extent, like you said, where they're overly emotional and overbearing. But you have some sort of release, you know, you have some sort of you know, comfort and if that's within your own gender and your community to build together, then that's great. I think like at least he's getting some sort of emotional vulnerability from somewhere.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So yeah. So I guess he said so if the guy has everything, treats you right, kind, courteous, religious, faithful, but he's just not emotionally available, that's a no-go for you? He has everything else. He has everything. He has everything else.
You're making it really hard for me, Will. You're making it really hard.
No. The reason why I just bring it up because like, I just feel like today sometimes like I know we all have our standards and criteria sometimes as men and women, and I feel like sometimes people are missing out on great people because the reality is no matter what your list is, you're never going to meet somebody that has the full list. Unrealistic standards. Yeah. Comes back. And that's something I just realized today that everybody has these lists and standards, and they're looking for, and that's why people today struggle in dating and why people are more as single as ever is because we have these standards, and then we're trying to find that perfect person to meet all these standards. But the reality is, as human beings, nobody's perfect. So like you're not going to meet somebody that's going to fulfill every single standard, and I see there's a lot of women, so that's why I'm bringing it up is that example. That's fair conversation to sometimes have. Sometimes you're gonna meet somebody that has everything you want, like 80% of your list, and there's only two things that he may not have. But then I've seen both men and women let that person go, but then the problem is if you find somebody that has most of your list, that should be enough. What I'm saying is it's really hard to find somebody like that again. And that's why it is because I've seen men. I was like, I met this great girl. I was like, what happened? We have a conversation. What happened? She had this. Oh, she didn't have this. I was like, I look at them like, are you serious? You don't think it? Like you don't think to yourself, oh, that would be like a, what do you call it? Oh my gosh. Like when it's anyway, sorry, it'll come back to me. But like something that they would not accept them for because you just think, oh wow, like that's something that you wouldn't actually date someone because of that. Well, I just feel like because of the age of social media now, and it's just people have, course. It just everybody has its standards, so that's why. For me, like, honestly, like let me ask you, like what are the must things they have, like for you? I just want to ask you, your standards. What are the must like? And I really hope I don't come off like shallow when I say. So we all have standards, but then we have things that we can compromise on. But there has to be things that in our standards like he has to have. So I want to ask you, what are those like musts for you? At this stage of my life, some sort of financial stability, and I hope I'm not. And they don't have to be a millionaire. I'm not saying that, but at least a stable job. Does he have to make more than you, or can he make less than you? I'm really not fussed. Like as long as he's making money, like for himself first, before catering towards me, that's what matters. So if he works like some sort of financial stability, it's not like he has to be a millionaire. No. That's the question I always hear. If he works at a warehouse, you're going consistently to that job. But see, women are really fussy about what their partners do. They want like a certain job or certain aspects. I'm not like that. Like as long as you work towards, like it could be a temporary job and it's working towards your goals now. That's enough for me. Like that's fine. He must have a vision. He must have something he's working towards. Whether that be like your studies or sport or music or just work in general or wanting more for yourself. Have some sort of standard for yourself. That's what I look for. Quick question regarding the financial stability. So you meet a guy, say he works at a job that's making how much I guess McDonald's. He works at McDonald's, right? Mm-hmm. Would you date a guy who works at McDonald's and he's content with working at McDonald's? For me, I don't know, probably not. Okay. So, good. That's always a question that's always a debate when I hear from anyone, like stability, right? So, and I also see a lot of men, women. I want financial stability, which is great because I understand that women want somebody that's going to be provide for them. But
think it's just because I've dated men that are not financially stable.
So for you, like, what is so when you say stability, that means that he has to work at a place and he's aiming for more money?
Or he's aiming for something more than like. I feel like when you sit in the comfort of being content in a job where like, and let's be honest, if you're gonna ask people that work at McDonald's, let's be realistic about this. They don't go there saying this is the job I want to work for the rest of my life. Like a lot of them don't.
And there's some people that work there for a long time.
That's just the reality.
Like
yeah,
3, 4, 5
like
years.
I said, it's circumstantial. It's, I mean, like, you know, someone that's grown up in a better society is not going to work at McDonald's, whereas someone that's maybe never had a job or they've grown up in a lower socioeconomic area and McDonald's has been a good job, fair enough. That's okay. But I don't know, like, I always feel that, like, when you're in a job, and maybe it's just how I'm raised, is that you always want to be better. Like, you know, like if you're gonna work a warehouse job, like why not strive to be a supervisor? If you're not gonna be the supervisor, then, you know, work towards being second in charge, something like that. And because where you start is not how you're always gonna finish if you work hard. So, but if you're just but I'm not going to shame people if you want to work at McDonald's, work at McDonald's. Cool. Like
no. I'm talking about for what you could be attracted to. So you want a guy
for me, I just think like just work towards something, regardless of whatever job you're in. Yeah.
So you want your guy to make more income year after year.
I mean, I guess that's how most businesses work, but if he can, he can. If he sits at like a step, look, for me, someone like me, if he's like working a job and it's like $50,000 a year and he sits on $50,000, cool. I think like not every year, but every so years, like you should strive for a promotion. You should strive for something. But it's not for me. It's not to provide more security for me. It's like you should just want that for yourself. And I think it reflects back on work ethic, which is something I feel like is important for a lot of people. That like, you're gonna sit comfortably and go through work for the rest of your life, and if that's okay, that's okay. But like, not wanting more for yourself, I don't know, like why not? I guess is my question. Like, why not?
The reason why I'm bringing that up because like I feel like part of being concise of what you want, and right. So like for you want a guy that. Because you say like you don't want a guy that doesn't make a lot of money. It doesn't matter for you what kind of money he makes, but it does matter to you. Like you don't want him to stay there.
Yeah, look, I'm just saying. Let me reevaluate.
Like, yeah.
I think I do. Look, every woman's gonna care about a certain amount of money. Like if it's extremely low, then I don't know. It's a little bit concerning. If it's a reasonable amount in my head, like
what's a reasonable amount for you?
Gosh, I don't. Well, look, Australia is great. I mean, our minimum wage is good. It's very different wherever you live. So I guess for us, Australia is really lucky. You can work a casual job and get paid anywhere between $25 to $30 an hour. So if you work a casual and like if you work in a warehouse here versus if you work in a warehouse in New Zealand, you're not nearly making as much money. So if I'm dating a tradie or a warehousing person here, it's actually not that unstable. But in society, working in the warehouse is bad. So like that, right? Because that, you know, innately you think, oh, you're making crap money because you're working in a warehouse, whereas it's not even like that here. So I guess I don't know, like 40, 50,000. But if you make more than 50,000, that's okay. That's good. And then progressively, if you end up making more, good for you. That's great. But I don't want you to then be threatened by the fact that I might make more money than you, which can sometimes emasculate some men. And I know that's how they feel initially. Yeah. But I don't know. I guess it's just as long as he's happy with where he's at, like, you know, work-wise. I don't want it to then think because I'm making more money than him, then like, oh, like, you know, I'm not providing enough for her. I'm not doing enough for her. I guess because just I prioritize other things more than how much money you give me, because I can do that for myself. But yeah, I mean, all women are different. So
no, yeah. No, the reason why I was asking that question because like I feel like today that because I've heard that I've asked that question to a lot of women, right? Like what do you
all different responses I can assume. Yeah.
So they'll be like ask them like, hey, what type of man do you want out of financially? And they'll be like, I don't really, I don't really care about finances. I love the man for who he is. And I was like, oh, then why don't you date a guy from McDonald's? So
yeah, I get you. Yeah, because it's
but
like you said, we're conditioned that way to think like certain jobs equates to certain stereotypes or certain things to some women.
And
I get you.
I feel like the more concise we are of what we want and expressing that to your partner, I feel like that's important, because I do see a lot of. I feel like sometimes like we don't really express what we really want because we're afraid to like be seen a certain way.
To be judged or you seem shallow. Yeah.
Like if you want a guy that makes $50,000 a year or $100,000 or $80,000 a year, there's nothing wrong with it. That's what you want. It's just and I feel like for a lot of especially when it comes to the women, because I always tell guys, look, for a lot of women, like
that's what they want.
That's what they want. Stability is important.
Financial stability.
Yeah. So if you meet a girl, because sometimes I hear guys like they complain about why do girls care so much about the stability or how much make. And I tell them, well, that's what women want. They want that stability because when they do have kids one day, who's going to take care of her? Who's when she is in labor? Like you have to want to pay the bills. That's why it's so important. Like, what do you think?
Yeah, it's important.
It's important for her to be with a guy that's going to support her, and depending on how she grew up in her lifestyle. So you can't.
Yeah, that's what I said. Circumstances. Yeah.
100%. But also I do meet a lot of women. Also, they'll be like, "Oh, I don't care about the money," but then, and then the guy was like, "Oh, hey, I want to date you, and I come from this place," and then, "Well, not that," and then they're like. So I feel like we have to be clear. I feel like we have to be clear.
Yeah, I mean, like, be clear on what you want, and there's nothing, and also not being ashamed of what you want. I think that's exactly what you said. Like, you shouldn't be afraid to say this is what I want from someone, and then be afraid that you're going to be judged for what you want, because at the end of the day, there's nothing wrong with that. And you're right. I mean, I guess like for me, I try and say like, where you are and the level of and the level of like commitment you want from yourself in any workforce comes down to your work ethic and as a person, and how successful you're going to be determines on your personal efforts. So it's true. Like, I have grown up, I would say, with like some sort of privilege as an islander. And I know there's a lot of islanders that would say, "Oh, well, she doesn't get it because she didn't grow up like a certain way," and so
that's not your fault
for
too.
me. Well, because then I say to myself, well, all our parents came from the same island. They all lived the same conditions. They all lived the same way. It's just like some people were fortunate, some weren't, and I've dated men that have no money. That's and like I guess like you said, there's nothing wrong with setting that standard now, where it's like, if you want a certain man and he makes certain figures, then that's okay. That's fine, because you want more for yourself.
When you were dating those guys that had no money, were you working at that time, or were you still in school?
I was working. And like my like my last partner, like I paid for everything. Like I paid for majority of things. Like and that came back to the red flags, like him lying about a lot of things, how he got money. Like he was in and out of jobs, and that's the thing about determining whether you're in love or you've been manipulated, because I feel like, because I was so emotionally invested and manipulated into the situation, I was compensating for a lot of situations, like our financial state at that time, living by himself, but I was paying for everything. I was paying for our food, his gas, like if he needed extra money, and then obviously like being unfaithful, he was receiving money from other women and stuff. So it came down to things like that. So that's why I'm like, I don't want people to think I'm shallow, because I've been there. I've dated a person that has never had anything at a certain point. Yeah.
I do ask I want to ask you that question, because I feel like I truly believe in today, money is important, and I have met women who say, I dated a guy that had no money. And then what I would say is like, you were going to a situation where emotionally like you were going through something emotionally. So that kind of made you overlook his
really bad living situation.
Yeah, exactly.
Situation.
Yeah. So because I've seen both men and women take care of people, and then they say, well, yeah, I took care of him, but I didn't care about it. I was like, oh no, you took care of him because you were going through something mostly. It had nothing to do with the money. But then when they reached a state of self-growth and finally found themselves, they couldn't do that. They couldn't do that again. So I just felt like back then you were going through some stuff, so you overlooked it now. But now you found yourself. Now you're healthy now with yourself. You value yourself a lot more. Your self-esteem is a lot more. It would be really hard for you again to deal with a guy that had, even if he was like had everything, like he was good behavior, he had all his kind, but it would be really hard for you to deal with a guy that barely makes anything.
Yeah, look, when I was in that type of situation with my past ex, and I think like a lot of women don't want to talk about it, but just like physically being attached to them, I feel like that was such a emotionally hard thing to deal with. Like, and they can say, oh, it's because like they manipulate, but it's like sexual manipulation as well, like using that to make amends with your partner, keeping your partner sexually, again, will then result in you dealing with those situations. And because I had grown up so traditionally in the fact that like, you know, and I don't know how women feel about talking about it, but like not having a big body count, or, you know, you want to stick with that one person all the time because you don't want to start again and share yourself intimately. That's also why I think I dealt a lot with like what was happening with him, is that because I was sexually attached to him so much that like that felt like love to me. And like I didn't want to, you know, restart that type of relationship either. So yeah, I don't know if that's something that's been brought up or in conversation, but yeah, I found like sex was always used as like a tool to you know, get what he wanted a lot. And that's sad because like you're supposed to be in a relationship where you feel love, but as a means to like, he knew he had nothing, and then like that was a way for him to get what he wanted, was like something that probably hurt the most. So, and like men and women do it all the time. So
exactly. Yeah. So so you said your must was like make sure you had financial stability. What else was a must for you?
Yeah, just work ethic. Like I feel like
guidance has
that's you know, like I said,
lazy.
Like, with financial stability. So yeah, work ethic. I just think like, I don't know, maybe just family orientated. I'm really big on my family. And I get it, some people grow up in different circumstances, but like, you know, wanting family and being around family and loving family, like that's really important for me. Because I guess I've grown up in such a big household where like my idea of love has always been stemmed from my family members and how they've treated me. So yeah, family orientated. Like humor is really big for me. I know some people think that's not a must have, but like I come from such a sarcastic and humorous family that like, I guess if someone doesn't understand my type of banter, I find it really hard for us to connect. I think just in respect, like respecting your partner. I've like dealt with so much disrespect in my life with men that like respecting me and valuing me as a person is so important. And that comes down to the little things, you know, doing little things for me, or like you said, comes back to your love languages. My primary love language is physical touch, and my other two are acts of service and words of affirmation. So if you're not always providing in other aspects, I think that's great if you can do that for me as a person. And you know, it's each to their own, but yeah, I think just like respect and is such a big thing. Because it all stems from respect. Or like, you know, like if you respect that person, you're going to love them properly. If you don't respect them, you're not going to be able to love them at all. So yeah.
Okay. I feel like you're missing like one thing that I feel like a lot of women think about all the time.
Which is?
Height.
Wow. No, that's so important to me.
Yes,
wow.
yeah. But you know,
I just didn't. I don't know. I didn't think about physical aspects. I was just mainly talking about their personality, I guess.
No. So this is the thing. Like, I feel like today one of the, I guess the reason why
I'm so shallow with height. I will.
No. The thing is, like I told you before, that's a struggle people dating today. Is like, we're not being we're not accepting the reality of what other people want, right? So and that's
you think, she's being shallow if I'm short and she doesn't want to date me.
So perfect example. I know from women, height matters to you, and the thing is, I don't have any issue with it. That's just how women are, because like I said, height is a masculine trait. Women want to be protected, want to be stable. So having a man that's taller, it just makes you feel safe as a woman. That's important to you. So so for a lot of guys, and for us, for me, I don't have any issue with that, because that's what you guys want. That's what women are attracted to, is height. So for you, would you date a guy that's younger? No, sorry, that's shorter than you. Would you date a guy that's shorter than you? No chance.
I'm not compensating on that. I can on personality traits, but not physical appearance.
And that's fine, right? So,
but also it is hard for me because I'm like on the taller side, and like shorter women wouldn't understand that, because they have a lot of availability. Even if she's like 5'4" and he's 5'10", it won't matter so much because she's still short. But I'm 5'9", so like, to date someone that's just 5'10", 5'11", and I'm also like a bigger girl. So I guess it all comes into my physical appearance and how I feel about myself and who I date physically as well. Like, I find it hard to date, and I've gone on dates with guys that are my height, but also because I'm bigger than them as well. It, like you said, it comes back to your natural traits. Like, oh, I feel insecure because he's smaller than me, or he's the same height as me. Yeah.
Okay, so so for you, you can't. What's the height you like? What's your minimum height that you would date?
6'1".
6'1". Ooh, that's pretty tall. No, 6 foot.
Well, yeah, because with heels on, I'm 5'10". So like, and see, people don't think that's like, it looks like a big deal, but it is for me. Like, or 6 foot. Like, just even if he's just 6 foot, I could deal. 100%.
6 foot. Okay.
But ideally, the minimum is 6'1", and then like. Because like my partners have all been over 6 foot. So my first partner, he was 6'1", 6'2", and then my partner was 6'5". So he was cool.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, yeah. So and that's the thing. Like for women, that's important. Height is important, and also and this is the thing. So if you're a guy that's tall, which is, I think I was looking at the data. Like I think like they said like 15% of men are like over 6 foot of all men. 15%.
That's a low percentage.
Yeah. So like, and then of course, and then I think like 6'1", it drops down to like 5%. 6'2" is like 3%. 6'4" and 5 is less than 1%. So
I see. Fair enough. Like the average height in Australia, I think for men is like 5'11". So 5'10", 5'11". That's actually the average height. But
the average height? Oh,
yeah, and the average height for women is something like 5'5", 5'6". Yeah. In Australia only. I mean, it's completely different in other countries, but apparently that's the average height. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying is like, you have to, for everybody out there, understand that height is something that's important for women. So if you're attracted, if the girl you like may not, if you're shorter than her, if you're shorter than her as guys is watching, then you have to do more to provide value to compensate for that.
To compensate for that. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So and then also it's the same thing. Like so because I understand that, but also for a lot of women, like we all know that men are very physical. So we always judge who we date based on how you look. And sometimes I see a lot of women, they don't accept that fact. They try to society. Like I always like if a guy doesn't like you physically, then naturally, like a lot of women, he's shallow, right?
Yeah.
So
I always get called shallow, and I'm not. It's just I just like a particular looking man. Like, and there's nothing wrong with that either.
Yeah. So this is what I say is okay. So if you know you're a short person, and you know most girls like taller guys, so the way you deal with that is like you have to build value, but be somebody of value, and then you can attract those girls, right?
Yes.
So you have to do something
about it. It's even just about physical looks with your face. Like some people say, if physically you don't look as attractive, you got to make up and compensate for it in other ways. And versus a very good looking person, and they're like, they initially get a lot of attraction because they physically look the way you're attracted to. So, Yeah.
And then so I often meet a lot of women today, like, they don't take it themselves with their health, and they complain about why guys are not attracted to them. And I tell them, well, you're not taking care of your health. And then why should I take care of my health? Because guys, like, that's our initial attraction is always gonna be how you look. And of course, that's just the initial attraction. We have to form a relationship right after. But if you want to create some initial attraction towards your way, then it's really, really important to understand that if men are attracted to how you look, then you should take care of yourself and be your best version of yourself, if that makes sense. You should be at your best.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
And however that looks to you, but as long as you feel it and you look at it, and that's how you accept where you're at, like, and I think obviously that can be misconstrued. Like, a lot of people think if you're like a bigger girl, you don't take care of yourself. However, healthy looks different in so many different aspects.
Be healthy.
Exactly. And you can always say like a thinner person is healthy, but mentally they're not healthy. So yeah, I think it's what you said. It just comes down to like how you view yourself, how you value yourself, and you can't expect that from someone else if you don't do that for you. And that's why I find a lot of women expect so much from men and they don't do that for themselves, or a lot of men expect so much of women yet they don't do it either. So 100% agree.
So good, because I feel like we know that women, you guys care about stability, you guys care about financial stability, and so that's why I told guys that you guys should focus on building your careers and building a plan for your life. And then a lot of guys don't, I hear there's a lot of guys, like, they don't do anything with their life. They don't do anything with their life. They don't have no stability in their life, but they complain about why no girl likes them.
100%.
And I was saying, what? I tell them, I was like, no, the girls are not, they're not shallow. They're not shallow. No, they want stability. That's what they want. So accept that reality. Don't tell them, what I'm saying? Don't fight it. Don't shame them and say they're like gold diggers. No, they want stability. That's what women want. That's fine. Go. That's our responsibility to go make things happen.
We are not asking for too much.
Exactly. They want stability.
There are women that are gold diggers.
Of course, there are women out there. But most women, they want some type of stability.
The standard woman, there's nothing wrong with her wanting, like, you to work a certain job, look a certain way, be a certain way, like just as much as you expect from women. So so that's what I see. And then for women, that's the opposite with the women. Is like, you guys, that guys like a woman that looks healthy, like looks attractive. So take care of yourself. And then I feel like it's just people are not accepting that reality. For a lot of guys, like, oh, I'm gonna be live a meaningful, unmeaningful life and don't put my focus on anything and expect to attract the woman I really, really want. Because the ultimate goal in a relationship is to attract that person that you want, right? And that's the thing. We all want to attract the person you want. And I always tell people, well, usually the person that you want is usually, if that's the person you want, that means there are other people that want that same person. Yeah.
Right.
100%.
So if everybody wants that same person, not only you, then clearly you have to put yourself in the best position to attract that person.
Yeah. Because it's just reality. Like, that's
so that's the reality of it. Yeah, that's the reality. So if there's a guy or girl that you really, really, that's your number one option. That's your number that's your number one pick.
Yes.
Right. Just like sports, if we all have that one person that we all want in our lives. So if that's the person you want, then if you want to attract that person also date that person, and one day marry that person, then clearly that you understand also there's people out there that want that same person. So you have to put in work within yourself. Don't do it for them. Do it for you.
Yes.
Do it for
and the rest will fall in place.
Exactly. And then the problem today is like people are not accepting that reality. Like they just the person they want to attract, they're not doing anything to put themselves to be attractive to that person.
Yeah, they just automatically think, oh, she doesn't think that I'm good enough, or he thinks I'm not good enough. So, but it's a reflection of how you feel about yourself.
Exactly.
So that's it.
So
no, I agree.
Yeah. So that's the ultimate thing for you. I often see with relationships. So let me ask you. So I know you were talking about before how like you dated a guy and he didn't make it official even after a year?
Oh yeah, my ex, he put me through a roller coaster of emotions. Yeah.
So for you, when is too long for you?
Well, look, that was circumstantial. He didn't ask me out because he had 2 other partners. So that's
yeah, but there's always a time period where like, okay.
Yeah. So he put a time restraint on it purely because he was being unfaithful. Yeah.
Yeah. For you, but for now, like, for you, like, how long do you feel like
I'd say, look,
how long?
I think
how many?
Dating. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
How long would I wait? I think if we're dating for about 3-4 months, 4 months at that.
Yeah, that's.
I think that's a reasonable amount of time.
That's reasonable.
I'm not gonna say 2 months because I like 8 because I put it in terms of weeks. Like 8 weeks is nothing. Like so I think about 3-4 months, and then I'm sure you'd know by now if you'd want to date me. Like that's probably the max that I would give. Like if it goes on towards 6 months, it's like, okay, I might as well start dating other people because you're not taking me serious. Yeah, that's what I think.
There's certain things that if you're dating somebody, there's certain things that if you do these things in this relationship, that then it has to be official. Like example would be like sex. Like, if you're dating somebody,
I see.
As soon as you have sex with them, then we're not gonna, that's official now, regardless of when that time period. But it's different for everybody, because I feel like sometimes
that's probably gonna be the official thing. Because I think about men, and it's mainly a male thing. Like they don't establish sex as being like the official, like versus men. Yeah, like like intimacy is so different and it's viewed different. But I guess like the ultimate thing would be for me is like if we take that next step as to like, oh, like we want to meet outside friends or like their family members, then that's when I know, like, I think by now you should ask me out. That's kind of like the point where if I want to start introducing you to my circle and my people, that like I'm not going to do that unless you start telling me that we're going to be girlfriend and boyfriend. Yeah.
So if you feel that earlier, if you feel that in a relationship that say in that 1 or 2 months that you feel like you're comfortable enough to bring him to your family and he's comfortable to bring you to his family, and then that should be the sign. Okay, that should be official.
I mean, there's a time for everything. Like in my head, like I think 2 months is too short. So if he's feeling that way, I would have to express to him, look, I think it's a little bit too early. Maybe we just see this out a little bit longer. And that's why I said 3 to 4 months. I think that's an appropriate time. Even 4 months, I would still push it. But like I said, it's subject to me because of just what I've been through before. Every woman would be different. Some women would even say like, a month, and then like we can start dating, or 2 months. Also, it just depends how long you've known that person. Sometimes you've been talking to this guy and he's been your friend for a long time, and then you kind of start dating, or like it could just be a complete random. So I guess it really just depends on the guy as well and how long you've known him. Because if you've known him for a long time, then you'd probably speed up the process of dating and you'd probably date them a lot sooner. Whereas if they're a complete stranger, then I would give it 4 months for me.
How long that's good. How long is so once you date that person and it's official, how long what's the time period for you like before you expect him to put a ring on your finger? 2 years, 3 years, 1 year?
I've had this conversation so many times with my dad.
I know.
And it just can't. No, well, I mean, some people are really fixated on time, like, 2 years, and then like if you haven't put a ring on my finger, you don't love me. But in saying that, I do find it like really hard when people have been together, like, and say they've dated in their young 20s, and he's like been with her for 8 years and still hasn't put a ring on it. I think that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So I do think that, like, look, when you know, but like you shouldn't take anywhere more than 2 years to know you want to be with that person. Like, I really, and some people only delay it because they think, I need to have a big wedding and I need to save for a wedding. And why do you need, and I want to have like a 8K ring. I've had these conversations with my siblings. Like, they think the maximum that you should pay for a ring is anywhere between $6,000 to $10,000. I literally said, I don't even care if it's like a K on my finger. Like, if and they think that I'm not setting a standard for myself, but I just don't. That's a social media culture I'm talking about. That's what I mean. And I don't fixate on that. Like, why do I need to have a $5,000 ring? It's the same as if I had a $2,000 ring. It's what you value. So is it the significance of how much it is, or what it means to you because you're in love?
What if he gave you $100? What if you gave you $100 ring?
Yeah, see, and that's when it comes down to that. So I think, like, I don't value money to that extent where it's super expensive, but I do value money in the sense that it can. Come on, like, I think $100, you're being a little cheap there. but it's circumstantial again. Not everyone is that privilege of having a $1,000 ring or even a $500 ring. So whatever makes you comfortable. If you're in a situation where you can't financially, like, provide that, but your woman's okay with that, then get married, get engaged. Like, some people don't even care, they get eloped. Like, I just think in when the question you're asking me, the time frame, I just think it's ridiculous if you wait any more than, like,
2 years.
2 years. Like, 2 years, you've known someone long enough to know whether you want them for the rest of your life. And I think people just make you because of social media culture. Exactly.
Yeah. I feel like 2 years is a good time. It's a good time.
100%. Yeah. I think a year. Look, I've met people that have been engaged in less than a year, but that's come down to circumstances and the religion. So I don't know. It could have been different. Like, they had waited, but everyone's different. They're still together. Yeah. So, but just me, and I guess you as well. Like, I think we've agreed that 2 years is probably a good
time. Do you prefer to meet people on social media, or do you meet people like face to face?
If I'm fortunate enough to meet someone face to face, I would love that, because social interaction is probably a lot better than getting to know someone online. But in saying that, my first partner I met online, and then we just found out our partners met later, and then my second partner I met through rugby, so that's social interaction. So I guess I'm okay with both. Like, if I get to know you online and, like, we can FaceTime and all that, that's the good thing about technology, I guess. You can get to know someone looking at them online, not just through typing, and then, have conversations that way. So either or, I'm not picky.
Oh, okay. And as far as one of the biggest things I often hear from both men is regarding commitment. So, because I know everybody sees commitment differently. Like, for you, like, when it comes to commitment, what are certain things that, because especially social media, liking pictures, liking certain people, following certain people.
Yeah.
So what are the things that you see that now you don't, that for you, when it comes to being faithful, that's something that you don't like?
I've been in those situations. Like, every woman would be lying if they said they're okay with their partner liking other girls' photos and commenting on other girls' photos. I think if I'm committed to you and you don't like something, then I wouldn't do it. So then why would you do it? I don't get too fixated on that, though. Like, especially with, like, women now and saying, I don't want my partner having, like, friends of the opposite sex. I think that's so disrespectful. Like, okay, but if they came before you, then you can't destroy friendships that he's had before. He should know his boundaries. He should know his lines. So I think, like, being committed is just whatever you think is inappropriate is inappropriate. If I don't want to fixate on the whole social media thing, because for me, like, if he knows if he likes other girls' photos and it's like people he know, whatever. If it's like inappropriate photos, that's when it's kind of crossing a boundary. But if it's like one of his friends and he's like whatever, that's not a big deal. You shouldn't kick up a fuss about that. Like, because if I like one of my friends' photos and it's like a photo of him smiling, I don't think that's like cheating. Which I think some girls are a bit psychotic in that sense. Like, they over fixate on stuff like that, and it becomes very controlling, and it makes your man feel restrained. Like, oh, she wants so much, and your partner's gonna be around the opposite sex, whether it's in workplace, whether it's in sport, and you've got to be able to trust them. Like, and if you don't think you can trust them, and you put all these rules on a man, there's going to be one day where he just doesn't want to do it anymore. Or he's just going to think that, you're a chore, you're not a relief for him to be with. So, yeah, I'm not, I think if he's committed, he knows he can trust me. I don't want to place so much on, I don't really care about passwords and all that. I think other girls are really fixated on having their passwords and sharing accounts. And I just think it's just a control method.
Yeah.
I feel like that's super controlling. Yeah. And my dad has expressed that to me when I've expressed to him how I've been in my past relationships. From a male perspective, that if you restrain a man so much from things that are natural, are normal, they're going to do complete opposite of that, and they're going to resent you for it. So
yeah.
I
do want to ask you, because I know you're on social media, because this is a conversation I often hear from a lot of men also. If you met the right guy, and this is the right guy for you, but he asked you to take down your social media, because I do know that you post a lot of pictures of yourself. So would you be okay with that?
No, because you don't control my life, and you don't control my social media. If I was acting out inappropriately and I was he expressed to me in a mature way that, oh, look, maybe I don't feel super comfortable with certain photos and stuff, I won't take those certain photos, but I won't completely remove my social media, because I wouldn't do that to him. I wouldn't say, oh, you're acting bad, so you can't have it at all, because then it makes them sneaky. I found a lot of men that when you completely remove something, they end up finding different ways of trying to, communicate or act without social media, and it builds more distrust with your partner. So no, I wouldn't be okay with that at all.
Okay, no, so why? So because say if you meet a guy that he said, you know what, the pictures of you on social media that's revealing, that's revealing, he wants you to take that down. Would you be okay with that?
Yes or no? I don't know. I think it just depends. Like, if I'm making a post, like, say, like, because I've always been like really big on body positivity. I know I've had some things in the past that come up, and it just depends on how you're portraying yourself. So if you're sexualizing yourself on social media and it's very obvious that you want attention in a different way, I would 100% understand what he's talking about. Like, you obviously, and that again, it comes back to a respect thing. But if I think I'm celebrating my body in a way where it's not sexualizing, but like something for me and personal for me, like, I'd hope he'd understand that. But in saying that, I've never been a person to be super revealing anyway, so it is what it is.
No, the reason why I bring that up, because like, and I know that's that's for a lot, because there's a lot of girls out there on social media posting pictures of themselves, and based on my own personal conversation, and for most of the men, because when it comes to men, like when it comes to the woman that we want to marry, I'm not talking about the woman we want to date, the woman we just want to have sex. I'm talking about the woman we want to marry, because most women, they want to marry a man. They want to get married. They want a guy that's going to be loyal, faithful, put a ring on their finger, and take care of forever. Based on the conversations that I have with men that are very interested in marrying somebody, a woman, when it comes to that type of woman, like, we're very territorial, like, of that woman. Like, we don't want any other man to see her that way except us. So, and I often meet a lot of women that are very, they have their social media profiles and they're very revealing, and they always talk about that. Like, it's hard for me to find a guy that wants that's attracted. And these are very beautiful women, but they have their open profile on social media. And I always have to tell them, like, for most guys, the woman that he wants to marry, put a ring on her finger and marry forever, that's the woman that he doesn't want to share with nobody. And whatever it's emotional, whether it's physical, and even on social media. And that's one of those conversations I have with a lot of women today. And I feel like that's one of the things. It just comes down to, like, I guess it's really hard to explain that to women, because I do understand, like, you want to show yourself your beauty and body positivity, but then I always tell them, like, look, this is our love language. This is how men
I just
view
find it hypocritical. Yeah, I find it hypocritical though. There's a lot of the men that, because I find a lot of men that want conservative women and look a certain way and are classy and whatever, don't do the same for them anyway. A lot of them are like men that get around, they don't hold themselves to the same value. And a lot of my male friends that are like that, and don't get me wrong, I know all men are like that. A woman that's going to post a bikini photo of the girl. I talk
about the guys that they're married, or talking about the guys that are in a relationship.
Both.
Both.
Because my dad's a married man, and I talk to him about that, and he has the same like thought process that, of course, if you portray yourself in a certain way, you'll be valued differently, and that's true. But in saying that, because
because so many women work in different industries and they're portrayed in a certain way. I guess like there's other men that are really comfortable with girls showing their bodies, and then there's other men that have grown up again more traditionally in religion that obviously link wife material to being conservative and dressing conservative. So I guess it's just really based off your upbringing. Because I know like a lot of guys that are like into performing arts, or they're very alternative, and they don't necessarily base like what they want in a woman long term on what she wears. I don't know. But for a traditional man, yes.
No, so what I'm saying is like when it comes out to the man you want, right? So we all know there's always somebody that's gonna take you. There's always somebody out there that I guarantee you now, there's a guy out there that they'll marry you right now if you gave him the chance. I guarantee you.
I do know one now.
Right, exactly. So that's the debate for like, it's just like the same thing. Like I always tell them, like for women, like tell guys, hey guys, like, hey, women want the guy that can provide for her. So that she always gonna go with the person that she provides, and because we understand that. But the same thing with men when it comes to being territorial. And what I'm saying is the man that you want the most and the one you're gonna be attracted to, most those types of men are usually gonna be very territorial on the woman. So of course, can you get any guy? Yeah, of course you can get any guy, and he'll be okay with you posting your body like that. Yeah, but we're talking about the guy that you really, really want. And usually the people that usually the guy that you really, really want, and most of those men are very territorial of the woman they marry. So because I've heard you want a guy that
marriage and dating are so different. So
so usually so that's, and I feel like that's the biggest debate now from both men and women. I often hear, and that's especially with social media age. I do see a lot of beautiful girls, and they struggle to find the man they want.
Yeah.
And because I tell them, usually the guy that you want, with the guy with purpose, the guy's drive, the guy's stability, that guy that you're looking for, is kind, he's very open. Usually those majority of those men are very territorial of their women.
Yeah, of course.
So and then
like you just find someone attractive versus when you want to actually date them and pursue them.
Yeah. And then So and that's the thing. Like for most of my conversations, I have a lot of guys. Most guys would prefer to have their to not have their women be on social media, or be more conservative on social media.
Yeah, that's fair. That's just normal, I suppose.
Yeah. So I was very interested to hear your thoughts on that, because no, because
I always say, like, well, you liked what you saw, so but like I said, it's a respect thing for me. So I guess, like, even though like I don't shame other women for it, it's just I'm not personally like that. I don't put up super revealing photos. I mean, I like wearing things that accentuate my curves or stuff like that, but it's always done I always try to do it in a tasteful way. I just think, like, some things I like to keep private with my partner, and that's obviously being more revealing and stuff like that. So yeah, but in saying that, each their own, because I know there's other women that are like, that might watch this and say, oh, well, that's not the only type of woman that's like that. And so that's why I say all women are different, all experiences are different. So yeah,
exactly. All right, so but yeah, so like for you, like, what I want to ask you, when it comes to marriage, right? When it comes to marriage, do you rather meet a guy that what does a guy have to do for you to feel, okay, this is the person I want to marry?
Gosh, have I really thought about that? Because I haven't met a man like that yet. It's kind of hard to talk about it when I haven't. I don't know.
Well, what are the questions? What are the questions that you often hear from your friends, like when it comes to like marriage?
That I want to marry.
Yeah.
I think it's just like where the level of love is at. Like, if I 100% feel like you value me and love me as a person, and I can start envisioning a future with you, that's when I know, like, 100% I'm serious. Or I can start envisioning you with my family. I start envisioning you being an important milestones of my life. Like, if I don't picture those things with you, then obviously I don't see us going any further than where it is. But if I start picturing you in a lot of things that are important for me, then that's when I probably will know that I want to marry you and I want you for a long while, you know? Yeah. Mainly when I feel like I want to bring you home. That's probably when I know for sure that I'm going to marry you. Because like I've always said to myself, because I've dated two guys, that the last guy I'm going to bring home is probably the one I want to be with. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
That's fun.
Well, yeah, man, that's a good conversations.
Yeah, no, it's been good. It's been good. Like, you know, definitely opened my mind up to certain things as well, and probably things that I'm gonna work on for my dating life.
Do you have any questions regarding men like that? You may not understand, like, you know, why men do this, or that you often hear from your friends that they talk about men.
I think I struggle getting out of being like. So the thing that I do is like, because I've been hurt so much in the past, I automatically make myself a friend to guys because it's just easier that way. But I think like the question I have for Islander men, particularly because you are Islander and that is my preference.
Yeah.
And I know some men are really like offended by women having preferences, like, oh, you don't like me, and it's like, no, it's not that I don't like you, I just have a preference. Is how do you kind of move from being a friend with a guy versus being someone that they view as someone they want to date?
Oh,
I don't.
There's not
because like, you know, a lot of Islander guys will look at girls and look past them and say, oh, she's like my sister, but then she could be a potential for you. But I always place myself in that category because it's easier rather than being judged if I like them more than that.
So when that's like you're being friend zoned, pretty much.
Yeah, I also do like myself.
Yeah. So
I friend zone myself.
Yeah. So when it comes to the friend zones, I always tell people, because you put yourself in that position, so you have to, if you want to date somebody, and you have to act like that you want to date them.
Of course, got to change your change how you're acting and kind of the way you're carrying yourself towards them.
So for me, like for me, it's like if I really like and want to date you, I don't act like a friend. I act like somebody I want to date you. I tell them straight up.
Also, I have a question for you, but not necessarily about men. How do you feel about your partner having friends with them?
Your partner having friends of the opposite sex. Oh yeah, there's no such thing as guy friends. There's no such thing.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because they're always like a potential person that would want to date you. Is that how?
Yeah. There's every guy. If a guy's with you, he wants to potentially have sex with you. So you know, if no guy would be, I'm telling you, no straight, like, no heterosexual straight guy would spend time on a woman just to be a friend. That's not how guys work. Like, but if he's spending time with you,
that's okay. Yeah, because I've got a male best friend, but some people don't think he's waiting for.
He's waiting for his chance.
I don't think so.
Huh?
I don't think so. I don't know, because everyone's like, they can't be friends, blah blah.
I guarantee you, if you told him, hey, to come over at like 2:00 in the morning, if you texted him, hey, I'm kind of lonely, come over.
Way, not like that.
I guarantee you he'll be there ASAP. And the same thing, I'm saying, there's every guy that's, if he's spending time with you, he's just hoping one day there's an opportunity for him to be that man in their life. Either he's not confident enough in himself to approach you directly, or he's you put him in a friend zone, so he's just in that friend zone right now. But if you gave him the opportunity, I guarantee he will take it.
Okay.
How long you guys been friends?
Like close, or like just been friends in general?
Well, close.
Because we've been friends for about like a year. We only just started getting close in the past 5-ish months. So yeah.
So you don't see him as a potential. You don't see him as a potential person you
we've
want to
had
date.
that conversation before. but I think we've just said we should agree to be friends because he's got a lot of things that he needs to work on, and I just think that he needs to work on himself because he just got out of
who initiated that conversation, you or him?
me. Because obviously I'm better at communicating, and I just said, Polynesian men don't want to be direct about stuff like that.
Oh yeah, I'm telling you, like if a guy is spending time with you, he wants to, he wants to be with you, but he's just not courageous enough to tell you directly. Some guys can, but most guys are not confident. They'll just unless he sees a guaranteed way.
Or sometimes I just think they still need more time to explore and stuff. You know what I mean? Like it depends on their age. They're still going through that stage where they want to do trial and error. That's why I just think like, no, okay.
I don't care how.
You're like, Tina, have you not learned from your past?
Yeah, I'm telling you, if a guy is spending time with you, he wants to be with you, regardless of what he says. That's just his way of not accepting rejection. He doesn't want to be rejected because most guys.
I always think it's because they want their cake and eat it too.
They want their what?
They want their cake and they want to eat it too. They have a girl that acts like their girlfriend, but at the same time can do whatever they want.
Oh, that could be the case too. Maybe he's with you. But
You're like, yeah.
Yeah, but the ulterior motive is he's with you because he wants something out of you, not because of it. He's just being a friend.
Yeah.
Because when I say friend, when you have somebody that's a friend, it means like there's nothing he wants. Especially if I have.
What about and do you believe the same aspect as in there's no such thing as female friends?
Yeah, of course.
So
yeah,
okay, but what happens if say hypothetically you have a girl mate from when you were like a childhood friend, and then she ends up being a boyfriend? Does that mean you can't be friends with her still because you guys were friends, or how do you establish that? Like, what if they're from your what if you've grown up with them? Can that still not be a thing? Or what if you were high school friends and then you met your partner way later?
What the thing is, I have girlfriends, right? Friends I've been friends for a long time, right? I'm their friend, but I don't talk to them every single day.
Yeah, I get you. So
you know what I'm saying? Like, yeah. So like, you know what I'm saying? The problem is I have is like it goes both ways. There's no way that you have a friend that's always talking to you every single day that's gonna be a male. The same thing with me. If I have a girl, if I have a friend that's a female and she's always talking to me, there's a reason why she's always talking to me, reaching out to me, because she likes me. Both goes both ways. Like we said, we all have friends, but like think about it, we don't really talk to our friends the opposite sex every single day. And if you are, that means one of you guys like each other. I don't know who.
Yeah.
There's one of you guys like each other but hasn't said anything. Yeah.
Yeah. Fair.
Yeah. So go ahead. Yeah. That answers your question. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know.
Hey, I've just I think that's all the time I have for now.
Oh, it's all good. It's all good.
Yeah, I would love to continue the conversation. I was just
No, it's good. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being on the podcast. I really appreciate it. We had some great conversations. Okay. We had some great conversations.
Yeah, I think so. Good.
Yeah. The one thing I do want to ask you is just close it off with final thoughts, and then I know you shared a lot of your life story. You just share some final thoughts, and we'll end it off with that.
Cool. Yeah, I think it's been a great opportunity to not only talk about my life, but experiences I've been through and things that people can relate to. And I think talking about sexuality, safe sex, talking about being open and honest, emotional availability, emotional vulnerability, are things that I've always wanted to talk about. And thank you again for giving me that opportunity to touch base on those topics. For not only our Polynesian community, but just like people in general. And dating in the 21st century. I think that was such an interesting, encounter discussion we had about how we view things and how social media ties into that. So again, I want to thank you so much for having me on your podcast. I think it's, again, so great, like the conversation you're trying to start in our community. And hopefully, some people took some pointers away from our conversation in this podcast. So super grateful. And thank you again for having me.